Alfie is a WOR race winner.
Jensen makes it 5 in a row.
Danny Berejnay wins on debut.
Shinaka returns to winning ways in WOR.
Season 12 sees a new man. It's Shadow. He is your Xbox champion.
And Jensen is the new king of PlayStation.
From the back row of the grid, against all odds, Nicholas Longy wins the title.
Goes past the safety car.
What has gone on here?
Bowman spins.
Stunning move from the Spaniard.
He's taken out Rambo.
Here comes Longy.
We're going 4 wide down to turn 1.
Oh, he's taking him out.
The champion rival's complete.
Tomek to the inside.
Got a win to Brazil.
Absolutely sensational.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the WOR YouTube channel. Season 13 continues along towards Mexico for round number 11. This high-speed, high-altitude circuit is surely going to provide some great action for us this evening. My name is Dan, making my return to the WOR commentary box after a few weeks of being ill. But of course, we're being joined by Luke Etheridge as well, the one and only. Luke, how are you doing tonight?
I'm very well, thanks. Thankfully, no freshers flu affecting me tonight, and hopefully everyone's feeling pretty fresh that's racing that we've got here. Obviously, plenty of people who've been doing esports over the last few days, so it'll be interesting to see how much preparation they've had for Mexico. A circuit that we were talking about before, Dan. It's one that we really both enjoy.
Absolutely. This is a very fun circuit to commentate on. I actually really enjoy it to drive because I'm quite slow, so I just don't even need to go off the circuit most times, so I actually really enjoy the entire feel of it. I know that these guys, they might have some issues with their pushing right to the limits, you know, in that S's section in the second sector. It will be difficult, but from a commentary point of view, it is an incredible track to commentate on.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's always plenty of good action. I mean, it's fantastically long, you know, first DRS zone down towards turn number 1. It's a really long start as well. I think it is the longest run on the F1 calendar down towards turn number 1. So that's pretty much guaranteed to cause, you know, overtaking and action in towards that first corner as well. And we usually see a lot of invalidations, a lot of track limit penalties around here. So it will be an interesting qualifying session from that point of view, because there might be a few drivers having to leave it pretty late and feeling pretty panicky about what's happening.
Absolutely, and of course, when it comes to qualifying, sometimes drivers like to prefer to maybe be in that 3rd or 4th place spot because it's such a long run down into the first corner. It really does benefit you to start behind because you get the advantage of the slipstream. You're able to jump your rivals into the first corner, and maybe we can see some 4 wide action. It's a pretty wide circuit, especially down in towards that first turn, so we could see some great action very early on.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, we've seen drivers doing it, you know, multiple times on there, going, like you said, 3 or 4 wide into turn 1. And quite often, the battles don't finish until around turn number 7 as you start going through that S's section. That is where you really first start to see the drivers, you know, have their proper battles around there. So looking forward to seeing how they cope with that tonight. I think, you know, these are the best of the best. They should be able to cope with that little fun situation. It was always interesting on previous games with the tyre strategies as well. On this one, it is more to being a straightforward one-stop hard medium like we see now, you know, like we see around pretty much every single circuit. Used to be one where 2-stop would be quite a good strategy. Now I don't think that is the key. And I'd say compared to a lot of circuits on the game, there's a fairly high chance of rain as well. So if that comes in, that pretty much blows everything out of the water as to what we're trying to predict.
I mean, it is very difficult to predict always just what these F1 esports drivers can do. Remember, I guess Spain was the last time we commentated together. There were drivers on the softs, mediums, and hards. I think Will Lewis went about 29 laps maybe on his set of the hard compounder tires that he started the race on. So these guys at this level, they go for all the wacky strategies. And I think Mexico can provide that. Of course, on the previous games, we did typically see like a soft, medium, soft, or a medium, medium, soft, or something. And that was also really fun. But I do think it is there's still a lot of variety to be had on this newer game.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, you mentioned Will Lewis doing a very long strategy on the tyres. I've seen people do it around this track as well. You'd think, really, you'd be a sitting duck with three DRS zones, but it is one where you can fight. If you're a bit bold on the brakes, you can definitely make it very hard for drivers to overtake you. So don't be surprised if we see that when others are coming through the field, a bit like we saw last week in Saudi Arabia, which nearly caused all sorts of chaos as drivers were trying to fight through the field. They were catching up to those who had pitted earlier on under the safety car and were not finding it very easy to work their way through. So yeah, Mexico should be a fantastic race. Shouldn't be too long before we are getting underway. I can see 19 drivers in the lobby now, so I think we are just waiting for one more. Yeah, as we've said, it is, as always, qualifying is very important, but it is a circuit you can make overtakes on. So even if you're starting further back, and we don't know if he's doing it tonight, but we know Thomas Ronha, F1 Esports newest winner, loves doing a last to first challenge. This could be a circuit where that is relatively successful.
Yeah, I mean, Thomas Ronha, what is there to be said about him? He's been... Sorry, I'm still a little bit ill. I mean, he's been so incredibly successful, and he finally has won. I would love to see him start from the back and come up through the field, maybe try and make some daring overtakes in towards that first corner. I'd like to see what Piotr Stahelek does as well. The pair of them seem to really be finding their feet in F1 Esports, so I'm very excited to see what that Haas lineup can do this evening. We've got 19 cars in the lobby. We should be going very, very soon. I think we've got a message in the Discord. 7:06 is when we're going through. In 1 minute time, that is when we're going to get underway.
Yeah, so like you said, should not be long before we are getting underway. We'll quickly take this opportunity to run you through the drivers then. So in the Mercedes tonight, it's going to be Jake Benham and Mirko Soriano. Jake could really do a good performance after what happened last week. In the Red Bull, Max Wiesel and Timon Shooter, Ferrari, Alfie Butcher, and if he makes it in time, Alessio Di Capua, McLaren, Ruben Pedreño and George Dada. Alpine, Luke Smith and Ika Baena. In the Alfa Tauri, it's going to be Jack West and Tom Manley. Aston Martin have Duncan Hoffland and Simon Perrinier. Williams have Primoz Miklavčić and Tino Nakarainen. In the Alfa Romeo, Will Lewis and Carter Lundy. And as we've already said, in the Haas team, Thomas Ronha and Piotr Stahelek. And I'm interested to see how the drivers do tonight, because Lucas, who's leading the championship, as we've already said, he's not going to be here tonight and possibly not here for the rest of the season. Arguably, the next informed man after him is Jarno Opmeer. He's not here tonight. If we get the standings up, you can see he's second in the championship at the moment. So it's a chance for, Tom Manley possibly to get that first win of the season. It's a chance for Jake and Ruben to recover after a poor race. I mean, we've still got 5 races left. This championship is still very wide open.
Absolutely, and I would really love to see Tom Manley finally get his chance in the sun. I mean, he's been so hardworking this season. He's third in the standings at the moment, not too far off a 2-time F1 Esports champion in the name of Jarno Opmeer. I'd really like to see him get that victory, but it is going to be very difficult with this high-level grid. Very excited to see how they all get along. I actually don't... there's Tom Manley. I thought he wasn't in the lobby for a moment there. I think we are finally readying up now. We've got our final driver, Alessio Di Capua, in the lobby. So that means, Luke, we should be getting into Q1 very, very soon. Of course, the 18-minute session with the top 15 advance in towards Q2, and then the top 10 from that session will be in with a chance of taking a pole position in the Q3 shootout. I love this format. It makes it so realistic because it is the same format that Formula 1 uses. So I'm very excited to get into this one.
Yeah, I mean, we were speaking last week, me and Jack, we were saying because of the way things always work in F1 esports and in league racing with full qualifying that the drivers do intermediates for a first one, it would be quite nice if you could almost have a shorter Q1 session to skip that out of the way. But yeah, it is a bit of a test. I mean, it's a very short circuit, this one, Mexico. It's a very quick circuit as well, so that gives the drivers an opportunity. If they get things wrong, they might even be able to do, 4 runs on a set of tyres if they're, 3 possibly more likely, but 4 runs in total if you count their intermediate one, if things don't go well. So there is a chance, if you do invalidate, which I think is highly likely for a lot of drivers, there is a chance that you could recover and get things right again.
Absolutely, and I really do like the fast nature, and it sort of gives everyone an opportunity to go again. It's not like Spa, where if you mess up the beginning of your lap, you're going to have to go all the way around this 7-kilometer long circuit just to get back in the pits. And of course, it is the same time frame, so it's not like the same distance that we typically see in the races. So yeah, I think this is better suited to the quali format, this circuit, and I really do enjoy it. And I can't wait. We're just waiting for a few more drivers to load into the lobby, and then Q1 will get underway. But of course, we're going to have the classic. Everyone's going to go out for about the first 8 minutes on a set of the intermediates. That gives us a little bit more time to talk.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen drivers before even going out on a set of full wet tyres, to be honest. I mean, the intermediates on this game are actually they're not a bad tyre in the dry conditions. I remember seeing on previous games, like such as last season when yourself and Andy were covering it, you'd see a lot more mistakes on the sets of intermediate tyres. But now there's no such worry, there's no such risk. If you're wondering why they go out on the intermediate tyres, we've spoken about it before. It's just to try and make sure that the wheel's working, make sure that their setup is loaded, and to get that delta time on the board just to give themselves that confidence later on, and they're not having to push ridiculously hard. But yeah, I think everyone has now pretty much loaded into the lobby, so it shouldn't be too long before we are able to get underway and see what the weather is going to be like for this session. Unsurprisingly, it was dry last week. We've had quite a few dry races in a row, unlike the real Formula 1, of course. The last 2 races have been wet, so intriguing to see if weather does play a part, and if it's going to play a part in qualifying in the race, which I found out on this game, for whatever reason, it quite often does. If you have bad weather in one session, you tend to have bad weather in both sessions. That might just be playing in the back of people's mind and playing on what they're going to do when it comes to tyre choices.
Absolutely, and we've just loaded into the session now. A little bit of grey skies up ahead, a lot of clouds over the Mexican Grand Prix circuit. That could spell some rain potentially later on in the session. So these drivers, maybe, if the rain is coming, they might not actually go out on a set of the intermediate tyre. So that is something definitely to note. But we're just going to be waiting here. Who is going to be the first to blink? I always try and remember who it is, but I just can't actually work out who comes out first. I remember if Tomek Paradja should be here, he's always the first one out. But of course, he's not racing this evening. So I wonder who's going to break cover.
I've seen, did someone coming out there and just trying to work out who that is. I think it's going to be one of the Williams cars heading out. I know Carter Lundy, the Canadian, he doesn't mind heading out of the pit lane too early on as well. He's usually a fan, a bit like his sometimes teammate in this league, Tomek Paradja. He's a fan of heading out, and I think Carter is making his way out onto the circuit right now. But first, it is going to be Tino Naukavainen, a man who quite often is on the bubble in Q1, does usually make it through to Q2, had an absolute disaster. Those who weren't aware of what happened last week, quite a good video on Jack Laverty's channel, actually. Tino ended up cutting across his teammate for last week, Jack Laverty, caused absolute chaos. Tino lost his front wing, and Jack and Carter both out of the race before it even really started for them. So they'll be hoping that they make it a lot further along the way tonight. But as we've already said, it is a long run towards turn number 1. You could see drivers go for crazy moves. I think it was 2016, of course, where Lewis Hamilton had to cut the grass. 2017 ended up getting a puncture, still managing to win the title in that race. So we've seen plenty of shenanigans in turn 1 over the years, and it would surprise me if everyone gets through that first few corners unscathed tonight, even with how good these drivers are.
Yeah, absolutely. When you put 20 drivers, 20 cars onto just the same bit of tarmac, it can get a bit messy no matter how good you are. So these drivers do have to take some caution headed into the first corner, especially at such a high speed. It's such a long run down and towards the first corner that it is quite easy to get up to high speeds, and we'll see Tino Naukavainen taking to this straight as he begins his lap. The DRS detection point doesn't go off until you're a little bit down the straight underneath the gantry, and now headed down in towards the first corner, reaching speeds of up to 206, 207 miles per hour at the braking zone. Insane speeds as he hits it very nicely indeed. A little bit of a lock-up from the fin, but he is taking this quite nicely. A slight correction on exit there. Of course, this lap really doesn't mean too much given that he's on the intermediate tyres. So, we're not going to see representative lap times just at this point. But of course, it is nice to see the drivers on circuit giving it the roll, even if they're on the wrong tyre.
Yeah, as we said, they're still not bad lap times whatsoever. I mean, we saw Tino there, both front wheels locked up on the run down towards turn number 4, but still managing to get it somehow turned into the apex. A fairly reasonable speed. This S section is going to be absolutely crucial, I think, in qualifying, where drivers are most likely to get it wrong. First time Formula 1 came back to Mexico in 2015 for this latest stint in the capital. Sebastian Vettel had a bit of a nightmare weekend, spinning in qualifying and spinning in the race at those corners. So it is definitely one that can catch out even the best as Tino makes his way around the final couple of corners. Then we'll see what this lap time is going to be for Tino. 119.492. Again, not going to be a representative lap time whatsoever. Although this is interesting. You can tell Duncan's not raced a lot this season. He's completely forgot the order of things. You're not meant to go out on soft tyres this early on.
What is he doing? He's setting his lap before the 10-minute mark. I mean, that is straight bannable, I think. So we might need to see Duncan in the steward's room, but more lap times are coming in at the moment. Cartalundi dips into the 1 minute 18s, but Duncan Hoffland is going to smash their times out of the water. A little bit of slide out of Horkila, but in towards now the very challenging S's section. A little bit of a touch on the grass, right onto the curves, right on the limit is Duncan Hoffland, but he is maximising his time and he's doing his best here out here. Short DRS straight down in towards the third sector now, where you're going to see the stadium part of the circuit, where the podium actually is as well, which I do find really interesting about this track. I really do love the uniqueness of it all. In towards now the final corner and off the exit now, where he's going to get his foot flat to the floor to cross the line, and the first time of the day is going to be a 1 minute 15.517.
Yeah, not a bad lap time. There were definitely, a few lock-ups, as you said, coming out of that double right-hander almost at turn number 6. Could have been a bit cleaner through there, but yeah, as a banker lap, I think he'll take that. I'm almost certain he'll have to go out on another set of tyres if he wants to get through in towards Q number 2. I'm looking forward to seeing, as always, a bit later on in the session, the likes of Pedreño and Manley, because they always seem to be able to just do it on one set of tyres, which we've spoken about before, gives you so much confidence knowing that you can just get out there, do a lap on your first set of tyres, and then just sit in the garage pretty relaxed for the rest of the session. Although we've seen drivers get caught out by that. It was, I think, Ismail Fassi earlier on in the season. He got caught out by it, and we know how close things can be. I mean, we've seen the entire grid separated by 2 or 3 tenths around here. Nothing compared to esports in the week, where I think it was the top 17 drivers separated by a tenth or a second or something. Just absolutely crazy how consistent these guys can be.
I think the entire grid was about 1/10 and then like 17 thousandths, something like that. I mean, astronomically low values. It was incredible how close they were. I don't know if we're going to get closeness to that same degree, but I would like to see the drivers very, very tightly packed. We've got one car out on circuit at the moment. That's Iker Baena. And he is in the Alpine this evening. Just invalidated his lap, unfortunately, on the intermediates. I don't think he really minds as long as his wheel is working, but I think he's going to complete this lap. Maybe go for another one here, so I'm not too sure what the thinking is behind Iker Baena's strategy. I mean, if his wheel is working, there's no real point in going out for another lap on the intermediates. There's an Alfa Romeo leaving the garage at the moment as well. That is Cartalundi in the Alfa Romeo on a set of the softs. So this is when everything starts to change. Now we are going to see the drivers coming out on their slick tyres, and we're really going to see the representative lap times around this circuit.
Yeah, this is where, everything's sort of settled at the moment. I think Ika's going for another lap. Well, I think he just wanted to get that delta on the board, even though it was an invalid lap. But yeah, now we're seeing Carter heading out there. The other Alfa Romeo of Will Lewis also heading down the pit lane as well. Don't think it'll be too long before a few more. The Red Bull Diamond Shooter is leaving. Red Bull currently at the bottom of the Constructors' Championship on 13 points. That is being headed by McLaren at the moment. They're on 187, as are Mercedes. But as McLaren have had more wins this season, they are top of the standings. And both of them only have one of their full-time drivers here tonight. Ruben and Jake, full-time for McLaren and Mercedes, respectively. And then it's got Valentin Bruffa and, of course, Jarno Ottmar unable to make it. So that'll be interesting to see how that Constructors' battle develops. AlphaTauri are third on 104 points. Alfa Romeo have 94. Haas, Aston Martin, Alpine, Williams, Ferrari, and Red Bull. The rest of the order as Cartalundi just making his way around the final few corners. Interested to see what Carter can do tonight. Obviously, very unlucky last race. Since his podium in Italy, failed to score any points in the past 3 races. So he'll be hoping for some good form on a track which does share some similarities to Monza.
course, a very long straight, similar to Monza around this circuit. Let's see how it favours for Cartalundi. Heavy braking in towards the first corner and in towards this short S's sections down on towards the Transira straight. DRS wide open for the Alfa Romeo driver as he's going to meet his braking zone at the 100-meter mark. Just after that, actually using all the track on entry and locking up very, very heavily there. So Cartalundi is looking a little bit scrappy so far. He's had some corrections at some points as well. In towards now the second sector where the S is arguably the most challenging part of the circuit is misses apex ever so slightly at the first part of the corners, but he's taking this very nicely. Once again, maximum commitment through here. You can see how the car is ever so slightly sliding right on the edge of grip, but Cartalundi does so well to control it. He's up by 2.3 seconds on his previous lap time, so he is obviously going to improve given that it was on a set of the intermediates. Now in towards the final corner, what can the Canadian do on his first representative lap time? We'll have to see as he comes to the line, and he's 2/10 slower than Duncan Hoffland. It's 1 minute 15.760.
Yeah, again, you know, these laps are looking quite scruffy at the moment. We're seeing plenty of lockups around here, being, you know, obviously quite a big few heavy stamps on the brakes. Not too surprising to see that. His teammate for tonight, well, Lewis, making his way around the final corner now, so we'll see where Will can do. He goes fastest of everyone on a 1:15.353. I think Time and Shooter, he was the next car across the line. He shoots himself up in towards second place, and now we're starting to see, you know, there and thereabouts what the different drivers can do. Max Wiesel, what can he do in the Red Bull? I think he's actually just starting on a flying lap there, as is Luke Smith. And obviously, when they're on their flying lap, they're sticking to the outer line, trying to stick on the racing line. When it comes to finishing their flying lap, they hug that inside to try and get the shortest possible run towards the finish line. But at the moment, Will, Time, Duncan and Cartalundi, the only drivers that have set a time on a fresh set of the soft tyres.
Yeah, it seems like everyone is starting their laps now. There is a slight glitch going on where it doesn't show them on an out lap, so that's why we sometimes do make mistakes when a driver's just beginning their runs. I'm trying to see who is in the final sector and who's finishing up on their laps. I'm just going to have to scroll through the entire grid order to find it. Duncan Hoffland's come across the line. I think he did improve. Yeah, he did improve. He didn't get any positions. Alessio De Capua shoots to the top, a driver that we typically see going out quite early on in qualifying. He's topped the session so far, ahead of Will Lewis, Time and Shooter, Duncan Hoffland. These are names not to be scoffed at. So Alessio De Capua, maybe this circuit really does favour him. He goes to the very peak of the timing sheet. We've got Ikabaena just beginning his run as well. I think Tino now Karinen has improved on his time to go 6th fastest. We've got one of the Red Bulls of Max Wiesel coming to the line with a 1 minute 15.244, quickest of them all so far. A great effort from him. Luke Smith is coming up towards the line right now, but he's not improved at all, so he's probably going to go again here. We've got Jake Benham up next in towards the final sector of 56, flat through there, and he's taken that very nicely indeed. They're getting ever so close to the 1 minute 14. Jake Benham to the top with a 15.1.
Yeah, great lap there by Jake Benham. Max up there second, and Alessio, something seems to have clicked with Alessio ever since the Dutch Grand Prix a couple of weeks ago, where he had a good qualifying session, underfueled the car unfortunately, so ran out of fuel on the last lap, got his first points at Saudi Arabia. Yeah, something just seems to have clicked. He still probably needs to find that bit of consistency with the race pace, but now that he's setting good times, I think that will come. He had a massive slide through the stadium section on that lap and still managed to be within 0.16 seconds of the fastest time at the moment. So that's definitely going to give Alessio quite a bit of confidence, I think. Ikabaena, he's making his way towards the finish line. What can he do? That is a 1:15.3 from him. And a man we're going to see tomorrow night in the PSGL versus WOR event, Mirko Suriano. He's racing for PSGL as their PlayStation Tier 1 champion. What can he do on PC? Well, as you've seen already this season, he's not bad whatsoever. Slots himself up in towards 5th place. I'd say everyone on a 1:15.1, possibly all the way down to Tom Manley on a 15.388, is probably going to be feeling pretty confident about how things are going at the moment.
Downwards is where they're going to feel a little bit shaky with their lap times. But of course, there is still 5 minutes to go, so there's plenty of time to come back out onto the circuit and finish up your runs. We do have a certain F1 Esports winner on a lap at the moment. The man himself, Thomas Ronhaar, on a flyer. I thought he was going to start from the back, but he is pushing at the moment. What is his sector time? It is almost identical to what Ruben Pedreño did. So he's looking around about that top order, maybe not where Jake Benham is, but we'll have to wait and see. Is in towards now the final sector, the stadium section here, towards now the final braking zone and the final corner off the exit now, keeping it pinned to the right hand side. Thomas Ronha, latest F1 esports winner, goes to the top of the order. It's a 1 minute 15.137, just 100th actually ahead of Jake Benham. Of course, these two sort of developing a little bit of a rivalry as the next up and coming stars in F1 esports, and they are topping Q1 at the moment. And I'm just noticing as well, Luke, we are beginning to see some sun, I think, peeking through the clouds. It's certainly gotten lighter out on the circuit, so I think the clouds are going to begin to clear away. That means the circuit's going to be heating up.
Yeah, circuit's heating up, so as you're getting towards the end of the lap, those tyres might be heating up a bit more, possibly overheating the rears towards the end of the lap. Might be something for these drivers to watch out for. Doesn't usually make too much of a difference on the F1 game as it does compared to other sims, but might be something the drivers just have in the back of their mind. Cartalondi invalidating on that one, so he very possibly might just end up diving it straight back towards the pits here and going out again. And yeah, it does just hug the right hand side of the track in towards the pits. He comes himself, now Karainen, Smith, Perrinier and Nader yet to set a lap time. I mean, they are the ones that are heading out, I should say. Nader's yet to set a lap time, and Smith and Perrinier yet to set a representative lap time whatsoever. So that might just make a few of those further up the order nervous at this three very good drivers indeed. I mean, Luke Smith, esports, has got a podium. We've seen in this league what Simon and George can do as well. That you'd expect them to improve. Be surprised if they get up there to that time of Thomas, though. That is looking very good from Ronha. And good to see him taking part in qualifying. I think now that the latest run of esports is over, maybe, just maybe, he's thinking, you know what, I've got a chance of winning this league.
Yeah, absolutely. And why not go for it? Thomas Ronha, he's got all the talent in the world. He is arguably the most on fire man in F1 esports at the moment. Why not take some time to flex his muscles in WOR and have a good time of it? And I'm glad to see that he is taking part and really going for it in this qualifying session. Of course, it doesn't really matter in Q1 who does top the session. It's all about that bottom five, and we've got the likes of Luke Smith, Simon Perrinier and Georges Nader. Without representative lap times, it is certainly going to make for a spicy end to the first part of qualifying with just 2 minutes left to go in this session. We do have some drivers, I believe, beginning their laps, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, it is Luke Smith to be the first man out on track, and he is going to begin his final run in Q1.
Yeah, he's got a bit of traffic ahead of him, but I don't think it'll be too much of a problem. The Ferrari and the two Alfa Romeos quite a long way ahead, and they should get well out of the way if they don't want to get themselves a quali ban, as Ander van Dijken found himself with a couple of weeks ago. Nice and tidy through that fiddly first chicane. Just a tiny little bit of a correction there as Max Wiesel becomes the first man to suggest he's safe. The experienced German in fourth place at the moment, and Luke Smith, as you'd expect, 6.5 temps up at the moment. And obviously, using a set of the soft tyres compared to the intermediates will be accounting for most of that, but track evolution will be a tiny bit nice and tidy through the turn number 6 there. We're seeing a lot of drivers pretty much redline the engine coming out of turn number 6. Not something that you see too often. Normally people do prefer to short shift things. Fully committed through the S section. So close to being too committed there. So close to invalidating. And he is 2.5 seconds up. Now this is where you're really going to gain a lot of time with the grip coming from the soft tyres compared to those on the intermediate. So they should comfortably get him in towards that 1 minute 15s. Wouldn't surprise me if he's in and around, the 1:15.2, 1:15.3 mark. And in the end, not as much of an improvement in the final sector as I would have thought. 1:15.554 for him. I think you can probably say that's going to be Luke Smith out in Q1. It happened last week, still managed to get a podium. Might have to pull off the same trick this time.
Yeah, and here comes Georges Nader to the line. He could seal Luke Smith's fate as he comes across the line, and it is P9 Luke Smith. He's not on a flying lap at the moment. His qualifying is going to be over. We've seen Ikabayanya just cross the line and go into P3. We've got a Williams coming up to the line next. That was Primoz Klavcic getting himself out of danger and putting Jack West into the drop zone. However, he is up by almost 0.3 of a second on his previous lap and goes into P8. Duncan Hoffland, now the man in danger. He is on a flying lap at the moment. Tom Manley dangerously close as well to being eliminated, and he is peeling off back into the pit lane. Cartalundi is up next to cross the line in that drop zone. Can he get himself out of Q1? And no, he cannot. It is only P17 for the Canadian. He is out of Q1. He'll be starting from at most P17. His teammate Will Lewis in 11th could be looking to just make himself that little bit safer, and indeed he does. P6 for the Englishman. Now we've got I believe that's Luke Smith, but we do have one of the Ferraris of Alfie Butcher coming to the line, and there it is by 1,000th of a second. He goes to the top of the order. Alfie Butcher topping Q1. Simon Perronier could not get a quick enough lap time in. He is out of qualifying. Duncan Hoffland's coming up to the line next. Could he eliminate Tom Manley? No, he cannot. Tom Manley is going to survive in P15 as Timo Naukarinen crosses the line, and it is only P20 for the Finns. So the eliminated four in Q1 is Duncan Hoffland, Cartalundi, Luke Smith, Simon Perronier, and Timo Naukarinen.
Yeah, I mean, again, Duncan, he has tried to work on qualifying, but proving to be his Achilles heel, invalidating that final lap, that would have been good enough to get him through. And Tom Manley in the pits, I imagine, breathing a huge sigh of relief after that one. Alfie Butcher fastest. First time we've seen him for quite a while now that the Ferrari is back to the all-red Ferrari. They've gone away from that Monza special livery. I do miss the yellow Ferrari writing on the back. We have got another special livery, though. You might notice the McLaren's gone for their almost Singapore Cyber livery that they did with the streaks of purple. We'll be seeing both of them through towards Q2. Yeah, looking at the names down there, no offence, I don't think really anyone would have been massively shocked at heading out. I think if Tom Manley had have been knocked out in Q1, that would have been quite a shock, seeing as he's had 3 pole positions this season. Yeah,
absolutely. Tom Manley maybe not giving it his best in Q1. Maybe his final run just didn't go according to plan. I think he'd be very pleased that he has just about managed to get through. But Alfie Butcher, the man on fire at the moment, just 1,000 clear of Thomas Ronhard. That has got to feel good for the young Englishman. And look at the gaps that we are seeing here. 15th from first down to 15th was just 2.5 tenths of a second. The entire field spread was 5 tenths of a second. Look at Pedreño and Will Lewis as well, setting the exact same lap times. Once again, Luke, WOR is insanely close together.
Yeah, it is. It's one tiny mistake going a tenth of a second too late on the brakes, and that's going to make all the difference around here. And those that lose out in the end, Huffland, Lundy, Smith, Perronier, and now Karainen. But yeah, like you said, I mean, Wiesel down to Miklevcic is all within 100ths of a second. It was so close in there. Looking forward to what we're seeing there, what we're going to see coming up in Q2. There was a few drivers. I mean, I think Pedreño was one of them. Jake Benham managed it as well. A few drivers were able to do only 1 lap in that session and get through. That's going to hold them in good stead when it comes to Q3, of course. For the start of Q2, probably going to see everyone on a U set of soft tyres.
Absolutely, that typically is what happens. Everyone at the beginning of Q2, they just set their delta times on the set of tyres that they use to get into Q2, so they're going to have 1 extra fresh set for a fast lap. We are headed back onto the circuit, and already there is activity down in the pit lane. It is the Haas car of, I believe, Piotr Stahalek. It actually is coming on. We didn't see too much of Piotr, but he was definitely up there. I think he was in 3rd position, but I don't remember even covering any of his laps, so he's a bit of a silent killer in that session. He's made it into Q2, and he's the first out on circuit.
Yeah, I mean, had a good race here last season. Judging by last season, Haas are going to have an absolutely fantastic night tonight, because it was Thomas Ronhar who took the victory there. Stakelek finished in 3rd place. Between them, as someone who is absent tonight, winner a few weeks ago, Tomasz Paradzic. So both of these drivers have good form around here. Both of them managing to get it forward in towards Q2. It's going to be good to see. Good to see Jake up there as well, setting some fantastic lap times. And we'll see how others done. Like we said, Manley probably a lot further down than we would have expected him to be. Pedreño is normally near the top of the order. If he'd have had a second run, you would have expected some improvements, of course. But with how close it is, being such a short track, any slight mistake, it's just amplified because you've got less time to recover from that. So you could well get a very mixed up qualifying session.
Absolutely, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how this all ends out, as Piotr Stahalek, just for good measure, taking out the bollard at the end of the 3rd sector. He is going to begin his lap. Don't expect a world beater from this one. It is very likely that he is on a scrubbed set of the soft compound of tyre that he used to get himself into of the first session of qualifying. So let's see what he can do anyways, though, as he heads down to the first corner. Speeds of up to 207 miles per hour at the braking zone, now through the first set of the S's and in towards the Transira straight. Back-to-back DRS zones, only one detection point, so if you get that at the end of the final sector, you're going to have DRS all the way down in towards the beginning of sector 2. We could see some strategical use from that later on in the race. Up towards Horkila now, their double right-hander, where he's going to be met by the very, very terrifying S's section. You have to drive the car right on the limit through here. Be careful not to invalidate on that right-hand side. It's probably easiest to do it through there. And now through this quick, short series of right and then left, it brings him onto this short DRS straight. He's invalidated this lap time, so it doesn't really matter what he does from this point onwards. But even so, just watching a car on board in that second sector, it really is something special, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's where these modern Formula 1 cars now, with the ground effect, those corners were made for that. The high-speed SS sections, really seeing the fantastic changes of direction as well. The G-forces that the drivers on the go nowadays are extreme. You have got to be so fit, obviously, to do this in real life. And we're seeing fitness come into esports more and more. I mean, Brendan Lee obviously shed so much weight. He's done a fantastic job in terms of his fitness since, moving over to Italy, since joining the Ferrari team. A lot of the drivers now in esports to get chances to work with the team trainers, work with the nutritionists, make sure that their mind is working 100% as well. Healthy body, healthy mind, and also, running your PC and all your equipment, things are going to get pretty sweaty in there. You don't want to be unfit, and that is where mistakes can start happening. Trust me, I've done plenty of it myself, even driving at a much slower speed than all of these. First lap's over. Ron Hart, Pedreño, Benham, the fastest at the moment. Again, all these on a scrubbed set of tyres.
Yeah, maybe you and I, Luke, we need to get down to the gym, get a little bit more fit so we're not dying in the commentary box. But indeed, the first set of laps are over. Typically, what we see in Q2, of course, everyone on the scrub set. So these are not representative lap times, although they are still quite quick. It's not like at the beginning of Q1 where they're using the intermediates. But I'd imagine that in maybe just the next 2 minutes or so, we're going to see drivers come back into the pit, fit on a fresh set of the softs, and then come back out, and we'll see their very, very best in Q2, of course, fighting for a place in that top 10. It doesn't really matter if you finish first, second, or third. As long as you're in that top 10, you have a chance of getting in, of fighting for pole position. At the moment, the bottom 5, of course, none of them have actually set lap times. It's Nader, Stahalek, Baina, De Capua, and Shooter. Because those guys haven't set laps, it really does raise some question marks of where everyone actually is. So I'm very excited to see as we enter the 10-minute mark left to go in this session. Very excited to see how it gets on.
Yeah, a bit like Q1. It'd be good on the game if you could pretty much shorten Q2 down and get rid of this used tyre phase. You don't really gain anything from it at the moment, and everyone has decided, you know what, we'll just sit and chill in the pit lane for now. Very quiet out there, synchronised, pushing into the garage from the Haas and Williams seats. One of the Alpha Tauris getting pushed back into the pit lane as well. Like you said though, Dan, it doesn't matter if you're first, second or third or 10 in that session. You just want to get through. Your times are wiped out later on, so all you have to do is make sure that you do make your way through towards the session, as that is, I believe, it is going to be, I'm not sure which one of the Ferraris it is making his way down the pit lane. It is Alessio De Capua heading there out on the circuit. Again, someone who was very quick early on and managed to get through on only one set of tyres. So, going out a bit later than everyone on this first run. Wouldn't surprise me if he is on a fresh set of rubber. So, this could be the first real representative lap time of where the circuit is in this session.
Yeah, just riding on board with them as well. They look quite clean, those tyres, and everyone else. Once one driver comes out, everyone else comes out. Look at that on the mini-map. I mean, there's so many cars down towards the first corner. Alessio De Capo's got all the space in the world, and I think that's going to benefit him. Of course, he's not going to run into anyone else who might have invalidated on their laps, and they're backing off, and there could be some whole debacle as to, oh, you blocked me, or you just didn't move quick enough. I mean, there could be a whole story about it. So I think De Capo has done the right thing, getting out early, especially on a circuit like this, where if you catch someone in that S's section, your lap is going to be royally screwed. So I think Yeah, he's in the right place at the moment. Through now the final sector to begin his run. We'll get to see what the drivers can do once they're on a fresh set of the tyres. As here comes Alessio Capua, running it all the way to the left-hand side of the circuit to begin his lap in Q2.
Yeah, we'll see whether this could be the first man to get into the 1 minute 14s as well. De Capua heading his way down towards that first corner, as we saw earlier on, reaching a similar speed, about 332, 333 kilometres per hour, so in around the 208 miles per hour range, nice and carefully riding the curbs at turns number 2 and 3. Heading over towards the right-hand side of the track now. We've got no Delta time to compare for himself, but do not be surprised if this is the fastest time we have seen in Q2 so far. And if it's the fastest time we've seen in qualifying, as a bit wild there coming through turns number 4 and 5. He manages to get into the 15 zeros, 14 nines. I think that might be him, nice and safe. His teammate Alfie Butcher getting well out of the way there. As you said, Dan, you do not want to get done for blocking anyone through the S's, and also through that final part of the circuit as well. Quite difficult to let cars by, and I think there's a car just stopped on the side of the track there, perhaps quite wise to the fact that they don't want to be involved with any blocking, as just runs wide there. Coming out of turn number 12 does the Capua, and all that good work is ruined, and that is an invalidation. So I think we'll see him hug the right-hand side of the track and stay into the pit lane.
Unfortunate there from Alessio Capua to invalidate that one. It was looking like a pretty decent lap time as well. So we'll have to wait and see a little bit later on in the session where he really can go, I believe. Finishing up on a lap now, if I'm not mistaken, that is Jack West. Coming across the line now, he's hugging it to the right-hand side, goes to the top of the order with a 1 minute 15.0. His teammate Tom Manley is also coming up towards the line. Will we see a 1-2 for AlphaTauri at the moment? Indeed, we will, but for how much longer? We've got one of the McLarens of George's Nader. He can't go ahead of Jack West or Manley. His teammate Pedreño comes to the line, and that is the first time that we have seen in the 1 minute 14s. It's a 1 minute 14.892. Very impressive lap time from Room Pedreño coming out there. Can Jake Benham beat him? Not quite. He doesn't have a actually very convincing lap time there. It's only a 1 minute 15.199. Time and Shooter goes into 6th position. And now Mirko Soriano is headed up towards the line now. I believe he might actually be beginning on this lap. He didn't have a good time whatsoever. Miklavčić comes to the line. He gets close to the 1 minute 14s, but not quite there. So it looks like, I was going to say, Room Pedreño is the clear-cut favourite at the moment. Thomas Ronhard proves me wrong. He goes to the top of the order with a 1 minute 14.181.
Yeah, very good lap time there by Thomas Ronhard. 74 thousandths of a second faster than what we've seen from Pedreño. Interesting that Jake Benham actually went faster in Q1 than he has done in Q2. So you've got to think from Jake that there's a lot more time to come out of him in the Mercedes. I mean, Ronhard and Pedreño, they're comfortably safe. There is no doubt about that one. Miklavčić, Manley, West and Nader, I think they'll be feeling pretty good about how things are going for themselves at the moment in this session. I think they should be safe on that time, but we'll just see if there's any massive improvements to come from later on, as one of the drivers who's yet to set a time in this session, the sole remaining Alpine in qualifying, Ika Baena, about to finish up his lap as well. But we're seeing some fast times, and we mentioned in Q1 that Alessio De Capua getting up there was someone perhaps that we wouldn't have expected, as Baena just invalidates his lap. Primoz Miklavčić as well. Raced 3 times this season, only got 2 points. That's a very solid lap from him.
I'm quite impressed with how Miklavčić has done here to be in that top 4. He's not quite in the 1 minute 14s at the moment. It's improved by 1/100th of a second. Piotr Stahalek is headed up towards the line now, but he is going to come back into the pit lane with only 4 minutes left to go in this session. There could be some danger for Piotr here, the Polish driver, if he cannot find his way on a decent lap next time out. He's only got 3 minutes left, so he's really only got 1 shot left at this. And if he can't get into Q3, I'd say that is going to be the biggest loss out of anyone so far in qualifying. He's being joined in that bottom 5 at the moment by Time and Shooter, Max Wiesel, Alessio De Capua and Ika Baena. Of course, the bottom 3 yet to set a lap time, although I do believe that no, it's not actually De Capua, it's Alfie Butcher out on circuit, but he is unfortunately invalid on this lap.
Yeah, Alfie's just finished his, what I imagine will now be his final run in this session. He's going to have to get round pretty sharpish. It is a short circuit, but he'll have to get round sharpish, get a fresh set of tyres on, and then head back out again. We said that 1:15.0 might be safe. George would only need 3 people to improve to knock him out of the session at the moment. And 3 people have yet to set a lap time, and we've still not seen what Max Wiesel can do on a fresh set of tyres. So perhaps those on the 1:15.0s might be feeling a bit nervous. I'm not surprised to see Pedreño retire from the session. I reckon Soriano and Ron Hall will be retiring pretty much straight after as well. And interesting that Butcher and Soriano both made mistakes on their first lap, but were able to keep the tyres working for a second lap. That's something that we saw more often on F1 21, but you can do on a few circuits on this game, and clearly this is one of them, as it's starting to get a lot more lively out there on the circuit as a Alfa Romeo and an AlphaTauri head out there in sync. Final parts of qualifying. Which 5 drivers are we going to lose here in Q2?
Well, one driver who could be in a little bit of danger is 9th place man at the moment, Jake Benham. He only is on a 1:15.199. He was very eager to come out on circuit. Thomas Ronhar and Soriano have both retired in the pit lane, so their days are going to be done. They believe that they are safe. I agree with them too. I don't think all the drivers behind are going to be able to improve. But Jake Benham needs a good lap time here. I would really like to see him in that final part of qualifying as he heads through now the final corner. Going to keep it to the left-hand side, scrubbing off the minimum speed as he begins his lap here, opening up the DRS. He's going to reach speeds of excess up to 207 miles per hour at the braking zone, extortionate speeds down and towards the first corner, where we're going to see so many overtakes in this race, using all the track on entry. A big lock-up from him there, trying to get the car stopped, riding over the curbs. He heads now down onto the Trans-Sierra Straight. DRS once again wide open for Benham. What's his time going to be at the end of the first sector? It's going to be a 28.2, and he is up by almost a 1/10 of a second. So the projection so far for Jake Benham, it's looking good on this lap.
Yeah, it is looking good. Let us know in the chat who you think is going to go fastest in this session and what you think the cut-off time is going to be at the moment. Unsurprisingly, everyone, apart from those top 3, has headed out onto the circuit, including Alfie Butcher. Should just have enough time to go out, and that's an invalidation for Jake Benham quite late in the lap. Is he going to have enough time to build up enough battery? You can see him riding the brake here, riding the accelerator, trying to just, burn any excess fuel off, trying to get some ERS built into that battery as well. But I think Jake might be in a bit of trouble here. He's going to find it quite hard to save enough battery on this lap to make sure he can get round, just to make sure that he can get round in enough time again. George Nader, he should be safe in that one. He gets himself up in towards 3rd place, and I think Alfie Butcher is just going to get round in time to start a lap in this session. Ika Baena, we get to see what he can do. He heads towards the line. Must have backed off on that one as well. Only goes 13th. Max Wiesel invalidated on his lap. That is the checkered flag out. And depending on what some others do here, Benham could still be in trouble. Diamond Shooter comes towards the line. He shoots himself up towards 4th. This is going to be very close for Jake.
Oh, and Will Lewis has come across the line. Now that puts Jake Benham in that drop zone. We need to keep an eye on that Mercedes driver. We've got a Williams headed up towards the line next. That's pretty much a Klavcic, not improving at the moment. He could also be in some trouble if everyone in behind him does improve. We've got a Haas up next. That's Piotr Stachelek, invalid on his lap and eliminated in Q2. That is a big loss. The F1 Esports driver for the Haas F1 team eliminated, and in P14, Alessio De Capua has retired. Tom Manley comes up in towards 8th position. So who is going to be up next across the line? I think it might go back the way of Jake Benham with a slide at the end of the stadium section, but he is still up by 0.2 of a second, having to hold the car, and Benham is not going to improve. He retires on circuit. He is out of qualifying. He'll be starting from P11 at the best, as there is Alfie Butcher going towards the top of the session. Once again, an incredible time from him. Max Wiesel comes across the line to go into P11, and that is a big dramatic end towards Q2.
Yeah, Alessio De Capua had a massive... I don't know if he'd already invalidated the lap and crashed in frustration, but we saw him on the mini-map. He was well off the circuit coming through the S section. So yeah, the Ferrari clearly frustrated with that one. It's going to be a tough job from him down in 15th. Stachelek as well. Another driver that did not set a lap time whatsoever in that session. But yeah, Jake Benham, in the end, he had 2 bites of the cherry And both times he came up short, you know, invalidating on his first lap and then just making a mistake in the final sector on his last lap, which I think, to be honest, would have been good enough.
Absolutely, it would have. He was almost 2/10 up on his previous best. That would have put him round about where Mirko Soriano is, his teammate for this evening. He is going to... but unfortunately, Jake Benham will not, along with Max Wiesel, Ika Baena, Piotr Stahalek, and Alessio De Capua. But once again, it's Alfie Butcher proving his worth in qualifying. He's top Q1, now he's top Q2 again. He is really on form this evening, so I think this could be a definite shout for pole position today.
Yeah, he could. I'm interested to see what Ron Arm and Pedreño could do. They had a fantastic end towards that qualifying session, Q2, so it's gonna be pretty close. We'll be back for Q3 very shortly. I'm just gonna have a quick word from our sponsors.
Welcome back, everybody. Trackside here in Mexico for Q3. The 12-minute session is about to get underway. The fight for pole position is on already. Drivers are coming out on circuit to begin their outlaps, being heated by Thomas Ronhaar. The last time a Haas car came out first, it was Piotr Stahalek. He was eliminated in Q2. What does that spell for the fate of Thomas Ronhaar? We'll have to wait and see. But we only have, it's a very short session, this one, so I'm very, very excited, Luke, to see how all the drivers get on today.
Yeah, I am. I mean, I think especially these first laps are going to be interesting for Ronhaar and Pedreño. I think, you know, possibly a couple of others as well might have a fresh set of tyres from Q1s. But yeah, Ronhaar, Pedreño, they're going to be going for it early on. Everyone else is really only going to get that one run in, and Thomas quite keen to get out here early on. He has had a victory early on in the season. He's the only person so far this season to have beat Lucas Blakely in a feature race. I mean, he did end up winning the sprint race as well in Bahrain in the one-off sprint then we had there. So really interested to see what Ronhaar can do in this one. 14.7, the fastest time we've seen from anyone from Alfie Butcher. Don't write him out later on. He's decided to stay into the pits. But yeah, Ronhaar on his first flying lap in this session, heading down towards turn number 1 now. And it always intrigues me how similar all the setups are from all the different cars on this game. Everyone seems to have very similar wings on, judging by the speeds they're reaching down that pit straight.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they are pretty much all the same. Sometimes they can get to 208 miles per hour, but mostly it's around about 207. Thomas Ronhaar at the end of the first sector. Now he's not going to see DRS until that short straight in towards Delavallo, I believe it is called. He's got to get through the S's first, and let's wait and see how he does through here as he cuts across the grass ever so slightly, gets on the curb, almost loses the car, and he has invalidated on that second part of the S's, unfortunately, so he is not going to be able to finish up on this lap. That could knock his confidence ever so slightly, but this man is cool as ice, as we've seen in recent weeks, especially in F1 esports. Newly becoming a winner as well. It was only a matter of time before he did get his victory. However, he's going to have to gear up for another lap, or maybe come back into the pit lane. Indeed, that is what he's going to do. Miklavčić is the first up to finish up on his lap. Then it's a 15.3. I believe that means that these drivers are on scrub sets of tyres. We've Mirko Soriano invalidated his run, as did actually no, it wasn't Jack West invalidating on his lap. He did a 15.7, but so far it seems like all these drivers not really going hell for leather at the beginning of Q3.
Yeah, I think Soriano, though, I think I saw 14.8, 14.9 from him, so that would have been a very respectable lap time if it was clean. Pedreño was out there as well. He also invalidated, so amazingly, I think everyone who had a fresh set of tyres, who had a chance to do 2 very quick runs in this qualifying session, has made a bit of a mess of it and has invalidated their lap time, so that's going to make things very interesting as we get towards the end of this session. Could be even more wide open than it usually is. That's George Nader, a Lebanese driver, just invalidating there as he heads around the final corner. Would have been would have been good enough for provisional pole position by a tenth of a second, but we do expect these times to come flying down later on. The drivers finding it quite tough, and I think showing just how much they are pushing at the moment. It is Q3. These are the fastest these guys are going to go, and they are leaving no stone unturned as they try to get pole position.
Absolutely, it is really just going to be a dogfight this evening for who gets pole position. With this many mistakes, it really could leave a messed up grid order. Tom Manley's just begun on a lap, I believe. We've got a Red Bull coming to line. That's Time and Shooter. I also believe just beginning on a lap. Alfie Butcher as well. He's finally come out on circuit for his out lap, and he's going to begin his run. I'm trying to see who is actually on a push lap. I believe George Esnado is in that McLaren. He's coming through the S's section now, where we saw Thomas Ronhaar mess up his lap earlier on. No such problems for George's, as now in towards the second sector. I don't believe he is pushing that hard. A 56.7 through the first and second sector is nothing really to write home about, so I don't think George Esnado, he might have made a mistake at some point, or maybe he's just not pushing too hard. And actually, I can see he's completely flat on the ERS as well, sliding his way back into the pit lane. And that is not going to be a lap time for him. Will Lewis has invalidated on his run. That would have been a 15.344. Would have put him quickest of the bunch so far. Thomas Ronhaar has also come back out onto the circuit, and he has started his second flying lap. He invalidated on the first, but I would love to see this man finally get that time down.
Yeah, I mean, we've just seen Tom Manley as well. He's also invalidated on his first run. Diamond Shooter invalidates on his first run. Alfie Butcher hasn't yet, but this will also be on a scrubbed set of tyres, so in and around the time what Miklicic has set is what we've expected. We're halfway through this qualifying session, and I can't even remember getting halfway through a qualifying session before and only 2 drivers having managed to set a lap time at the moment. Alfie Butcher makes it free. Alfie Butcher goes fastest for now, but like you said, it's this man. It is the young sensation, Thomas Ronhaar. What can he do in that session? I mean, we could see, 14-6, 14-5, 14-6 in this session if they get the lap absolutely nailed.
I would love to see that from Ronhaar, and he is on an absolute flyer at the moment. 55.6 through the first and second sector. He is on a very, very quick time, as expected from the Dutchman, as in towards now the final corner off the exit. It's going to keep it pinned to the right-hand side to get the shortest run up to the line. Thomas Ronhaar laying down the gauntlet with a 1 minute 14.636. That'll be a very, very difficult time to beat. Mirko Soriano, I believe, has invalidated on that run. It was a 14.8. That would have been a very impressive lap time. Pedreño's just come to the line, and it still is a good time. It's put in P2, but he is a long way off the back of Thomas Ronhaar, or he's over 0.3 of a second back. So at the moment, Thomas Ronhaar this session, unless Alfie Butcher has anything to say about it, but he is not on a push lap. I think he's made a mistake somewhere there.
Yeah, I think Alfie just on his way back into the pits. So Ronhaar looking very good at the moment. It's a short track. We said that earlier on. Everyone's going to have time to head back out there again and complete another lap. The only driver I think is on a proper push lap at the moment is Mirko Soriano, the Italian. Just bit of a correction there when he's waiting towards turn number 7. Less than ideal, because you're going to lose that momentum all the way through this section of the circuit. But he could easily get himself onto the front row of the grid with the pace that he's shown tonight and with the way things are looking at the moment. Well, that time from Ronhaar is going to take some beating again. Another car looking quite wild as they make their way in towards the stadium section. Soriano really having to fight it there. A, to keep it valid, and B, just to keep it out of the wall. So yeah, very close things indeed. Gets himself in towards second place. There's more time to come from that lap, but he's still nearly 2 tenths off of what we've seen from Ronhaar.
I really do think that Ronhaar is just on another level, to be honest with you. I mean, we saw a little bit of doubt when he invalidated that lap time. Maybe there's going to be someone else who's going to be able to triumph him, but at the moment, he is looking like the favourite to take pole position. However, though, we still have 4 drivers yet to set a lap time in this session. George Esnado, Tom Manley, Time and Shooter, and Will Lewis. Very excited to see what Tom Manley can do in this session. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. We've only got 3 minutes left to go. Drivers are going to be gearing up for their final laps, and already there is activity down at McLaren and indeed down at Ferrari. So that is I believe Nader and Butcher both peeling out the pit lane at the same time here.
Yeah, they're going to be pretty close together. Hopefully they'll space themselves out as things go later on. They don't want to be making their way out there. Yanni Tripkov here saying Mirko should be a dev driver. I'm not sure if he's actually involved with... For some reason I've got in my head that he's involved with the Ferrari esports team now. I think he was one of the last ones from the Challengers and from the Pro Exhibition not to get involved with an esports team. But now that he's moved over to the PC side of things, which, you know, is sort of the way things go. The top drivers always seem to make their name on the console, then move over to the PC. I think he is actually now involved with an esports team, which is great to see. All these drivers, you know, Ron Har already in esports. Diamond Shooter's been there as well. You wouldn't be surprised to see him back. You wouldn't be surprised to see many more making their way back into F1 esports as well. It is going to be it's going to be a very interesting end towards the qualifying session. That time from Ron Har is looking almost untouchable. I think the only people who could get close are going to be Pedreño and Alfie Butcher.
Yeah, and I've somehow just been put into my own lobby here. So I'm not actually watching qualifying at the moment. I think my internet probably has finally given up on me. I'll be back in the session in just a moment time here.
Yeah, no worries. We'll just get through what he's going to be. I think one of the first drivers to finish start the final laps in qualifying session. What is going to be for Alfie Butcher? He's been there and thereabouts in Q1 and, of course, was fastest in Q2. So this could be a fantastic lap from young Alfie. And man, did a brilliant job on the Xbox side of things last season. Of course, as Alfie now making his way down towards turn number 4. We'll see what the Sector 1 time is. This will give us the first indication of his improvement over the used tyres. And about 0.128 seconds is what you would expect, as now the final drivers are heading out onto the circuit. Ron Har and Soriano just behind Butcher at the moment. They're cutting it close, but they're going to have enough time to get that one final lap in. Butcher slinging that Ferrari around the S section now, trying to get as close to the curbs, as close to the track limits as possible. He's doing a fantastic job. Let us know who you think is going to get pole position. We've got predictions for Manley. We've got predictions for Ron Har. Alfie Butcher at the moment, even if he doesn't improve in the final sector, will be joining Ron Har on the front row of the grid. But you would expect fresh tyres to give him something around the final corner for Butcher. This could be an astonishing lap time from the Ferrari driver. Cuts for time.
Wow.
1:14.572. Beat that, Mr. Ron Har.
That is an incredible lap time coming out from Alfie Butcher there with just 10 seconds left to go in the session. Ron Har's geared up to go once again. Tom Manley has come across the line to go into P2. Jack West has gone ahead of Pedreño into P6. However, Pedreño is on a lap time at the moment. The clock has struck 0, which means qualifying from this point onwards is over. Miklavčić and Lewis both retiring. There is Arun Pedreño. He is up and in towards P4 ahead of his teammate, who still might have an opportunity. I think Will Lewis has actually had a crash down in the 3rd sector there, so his qualifying put to a premature end, and unfortunate for him there. I'm trying to see who is on a push lap at the moment. I believe Mirko Soriano is the furthest up, and he is only marginally up on his previous best time. Thomas Ron Har is also right behind Mirko here, so I'm very excited to see what the pair of them can do, as now they're both flying through the S's section. Mirko Soriano in towards the final sector, up by just about half a tenth of a second. Ron Har up by a full tenth. So these two, they're both finding marginal improvements. That could put them up 1 or 2 good positions. Ron Har could potentially be on pole with this lap, as here comes Soriano up towards the line. Where is the Mercedes car going to go? It's going to be P5 ahead of Georges Nader. But what about Ron Har to the top of the order? 1:14.398. What a lap time from Thomas Ron Har there. Was there any doubt in anyone's mind that he would be one of the front runners this evening? That is a very, very impressive lap from the Dutchman.
I mean, his first lap was impressive enough, and we were wondering whether anyone would be able to touch it. Butcher and Manley did more than that. They managed to beat it, and then Ron Har's just blown it out of the water all of a sudden. How often do you see, at this level of league racing, you know, nearly 2/10 of a second gap? Absolutely incredible there from Ron Har. Butcher up in towards 2nd place, and Tom Manley, who'd had, by his standards, a scruffy qualifying session, pulls it out when it really matters and gets 3rd on the grid. But it is Ron Har on pole position for the 2nd time this season.
Absolutely, and that is an incredible effort from Ron Ha and Tom Manley as well. Good on him for getting on towards that second row. Alfie Butcher topping Q1 and Q2. Wasn't able to do it in Q3 and start on pole position. He is going to be starting alongside Ron Ha. If he gets the better start, he could be ahead of him in towards the first corner. Pedreño starting from 4th, and then Mirko Soriano in 5th. 6th place for Georges Nader, Timon Shooter in 7th. 8th for Jack West, Primoz Roglic in 9th, and then Will Lewis without a lap time in the final session of qualifying. That rounds out your top 10. And Luke, if this qualifying session is anything to go by, we are in for a one treat of a race.
Yeah, we're in for a fantastic race, and I imagine Butcher and Manley were feeling pretty good about things about 1 minute ago, and all of a sudden, now Tom Ronald's smashed that time out of the water. He's looked quick all, pretty much all day long, all qualified session. He's looked absolutely fantastic. We'll have to wait and see what he can do in the race. We'll just remind our viewers of what the track alongside Mexico City Circuit, first used in 1962, 17 corners, 4.304 kilometers, 2.674 miles, and as we've spoken about, 3 DRS zones. So even if you are starting a bit further down, you've still got plenty of chance to get some overtakes in.
Absolutely, this is one of the fastest circuits on the F1 calendar. It's also one of the highest altitudes, which means tyre wear is a big problem around this track, and it is certainly going to throw off some of our drivers. I wonder what the strategies are all going to be. A reminder, everyone, we do not have a formation lap, so we are about to get right into the action. And Luke, let us get your thoughts early on before the race gets underway. Who is your top 3 by the end of this one?
I mean, I'm going to be honest, I can't look past Ron Ha. I know it's a bit of a boring choice, seeing as he's starting on pole position. I don't think I can look past Ron Ha for getting the victory here. I worry that Manley's going to finish in second once again, and I'm actually going to go for Pedreño finishing in 3rd place. He always seems to do quite well in the race, Saudi Arabia aside, and I think he'll be determined to get on the podium once again.
Very interesting choice not to go with Alfie Butcher in that top 3. Let us know, everyone, in the live chat who you are rooting for to win this race. But we are about to get underway here in Mexico. 36 laps is about to be met by all the WOR drivers as 5 red lights here. And we are underway for this one. It looks to be a good start for Thomas Ronhaus. Tino Naukarinen has got a drive-through penalty headed down in towards the first corner. You can see Thomas Ronhaus already at a full car length ahead of Alfie Butcher. They're following in single file, having to weave down this straight. Look at Rune Pedreño on the inside. Is it going to be 3 wide? Around the outside goes Alfie Butcher, and he's going to take the lead, headed in towards the second part of the S's. Ronhaus going to nudge him out, and they're going to run wheel to wheel off the exit here, side by side, down the straight. Butcher will have the inside line, but he's going to back off and let him go through. We've got a spinner at the back. That's Primoz Roglic. We were saying earlier, not all the drivers are going to get through there cleanly, and we were correct at the end of the day. But the end of the second sector, at the end of the first sector, it is Thomas Ronhaus ahead of Alfie Butcher and then ahead of Tom Manley. We're seeing some more battles further back behind. Georges Nader scrapping it out with Mirko Soriano and his teammate Rune Pedreño. Already, Luke, an explosive start to this one as we've got another spin. That's Max Wiesel around.
Yeah, Max Wiesel getting pretty close there to Jake Benham, who is one of only 2 drivers to have started on the medium tyres, and Jake's putting them to full use down the inside of Will Lewis. Benham up 4 places on the first lap of the race. He's gone for that very aggressive strategy here. Needs to use the mediums now while they are good. Drive-through penalties for Luke Smith and Tino Naukarinen. Wouldn't surprise me if Luke started 18th and Tino started 20th, so wouldn't surprise me if Tino reacted to Luke moving there. Both of them with drive-through penalties. It is going to be a long race towards them. Stakelek for tyres in the pit lane, so his medium strategy hasn't worked. It was a very feisty first lap of the race. We saw that move there from Ron Ha on Butcher, just gently pushing him wide. I think we saw the 2 McLarens almost make contact on the start-finish straight as well on the first lap, and I saw a Red Bull moving onto the grass before even Shooter and Wiesel had their own trouble. So yeah, everyone very determined to make some moves in the early stages. I think none more so than the man on the mediums, Jake Benham.
Jake Benham, we know he likes the aggressive strategy. I think he's done this in PSGL as well around here in Mexico, starting on the mediums, getting up the order early on, and then using the hards right to the end of the race to his advantage. He's already on the back of Jack West through the S's section. No DRS, of course, at the moment. Is he going to try and stick a move on him anyways, though? Indeed, he will. Down the inside, headed in towards Delavallo, and he gets that one done. Jake Benham now up into 7th, and that makes it 5 positions gained on the first lap. He is the only he's actually one of 2 people to make up 5 places, because Carter Lundy is up 5 places at the moment. He is into P12. There it is, DRS now enabled. The first use of that is going to be down in towards that 3rd sector. Of course, this is the double DRS straight down in towards the 1st and 4th corner, so we're not going to see DRS for just yet.
No, and you're not really going to see too many moves in towards that turn number 12 unless drivers have a massive tyre delta. So later on in the race, expect the drivers to pit in around about lap 20 is what you normally see as the latest from the hard tyres. We might get what the normal situation is, where drivers come in possibly around lap 15, lap 16 and end up doing more laps on the mediums than they do on the hards, especially if you are stuck in a massive DRS train. And at the moment, all the way from Ron Hart in 1st place down to Simon Perronier in 14th place is in that train. Everyone behind them, Shooter Viso, Miklicic, Smith and Nelkavainen, not had an ideal start to the race. It will be intriguing to see how things work at the moment. And Benham again, he looks so rapid through the middle sector of the lap. He could be picking off his 3rd driver into turn number 12 in 3 laps. Pedreño's got the DRS as well. It makes no difference. Benham's already up to 6th.
Benham's having a flying start on his set of the mediums, but he is going to have to pit just that little bit earlier than all of the hard runners. He's going to have to use those hards. The soft to medium really isn't a viable strategy around this track. We've seen penalties already coming out for now Karinen and Ika Baenya at the end of the 1st lap. Jake Benham takes the fastest lap of the day, and now DRS is in full effect. We're going to see Alfie Butcher try and make a move into the 1st corner, but I don't believe so. That makes his intentions clear. He doesn't want to go for a move just yet. He's got to wait for the prime opportunity to do so. So we're going to be watching this for, I'd say, a good few laps. And now Karinen into the pit lane, out of this race. I think frustration's got the better of him, maybe reacting to Luke Smith, whilst that is his own mistake. It is a very easy mistake to make, so I understand his frustration. But at the end, on lap number 4, already 2 retirements today.
Yeah, already 2 retirements. I mean, I remember a situation once where my finger slipped off the gears. I accidentally made a start, and 2 other drivers behind me managed to jump the start as well. And I had the same thing. I said, look, you guys who reacted to me, yeah, I got it wrong, but you've got to focus on the lights and not the cars around you. As we said, though, it is very easily done. Butcher, I feel like it'd be easily done for him as well if he wanted to get ahead of Ron Hart at the moment. But anyone who's watched WOR, anyone who's watched PSGL, anyone who's watched F1 Esports knows how the first stage of these races go. It is all about management. It's keeping your tyres nice. It's keeping a high level of ERS. It's making sure that you don't get into any trouble with your fuel. If you're under fuel, now is the time to save when you're in this long train, and everyone will just be nice and calm and just staying behind the car in front, unless your name is Jake Benham. Didn't do it into turn number 12 this time. More conventional into turn number 1 down the inside. Those mediums are working supremely well indeed, and Benham is up into the top 5.
Yeah, Suriano did not want to fight him whatsoever. He just wanted to chill. He knows that he realistically isn't racing Jake in this race, and even if that is the case, he can come back at him later on when he's then got the tyre advantage. So Jake Benham, whilst he is looking very strong at the moment, do not forget that I believe this will come back to bite him a little bit later on. Over in PSGL, of course, he actually managed to climb up way into the top 5. So Jake Benham, he's very good at executing this strategy, and I would not be surprised if he does it again today. And we'll see him get close to the back of Georges Nader, just trying to make these mediums work for as long as they can and get the most out of them at this point. It is great to see, of course, if it's all one big train of hard runners, we're not going to see too many overtakes. So it is great to see there at least is one medium runner providing some entertainment, and I wonder if he's going to go for it down in towards the 1st corner. He is close to the back of Georges Nader, his special liveried McLaren, and I think he's going to have to settle down for the time being. He's already dropped Soriano of DRS, so we're seeing a breakaway now between the top 5 and the rest of the grid.
Yeah, I was about to say what that pace has done for Benham. It's dropped the rest of the pack. Pedreño had almost dropped a second behind Soriano earlier on as well, but he's managed to get back within that train. Thankfully for Soriano, he has still got the DRS. In fact, Jake Benham is going to go for things here, side by side with George Nader. This is going to be a fantastic battle, and Nader again, not interested in that fight at the moment. Jake Benham has gained 8 places in the first 5 and a bit laps. He is flying up the order normally. By the time the DRS is activated, you've seen the best of the medium tyres. That does not seem to be the case around here at the moment. Benham absolutely flying. He's not got a lot of ERS though. That is the one problem with this strategy. He's used a lot of ERS. He's less than 20% at the moment. Manley's in the high 40s. And Butcher and Thomas Ronhar, they've nearly got a full battery. So they are just cruising as things go at the moment. And that lack of ERS may just be the one thing that halts Benham's charge. But he seems to be able to make moves anywhere at the moment.
I think he's having a great time on circuit at the moment. Of course, given the high-speed nature of this track, there's not too many heavy braking zones to recharge the battery. Jake Benham doesn't care. He's going to keep on using it. He's sub 10%, which means his power is reduced by 50%. That's still enough for him to get up the inside of Tom Manley. And now, from starting in 12th position, Jake Benham is up into a podium position. I mean, this is incredible stuff from him. He is averaging, I believe, over 1 overtake a lap at the moment. So he is completely flying at this point in time, but something tells me that overtaking Thomas Ronhar and Alfie Butcher is going to be that little bit more difficult than overtaking the cars he's already got past so far.
Yeah, I mean, there's the flip side to this. He's the only driver on the mediums at the moment. He's flying through the field. When he's the only driver on the hards, he might find it very hard to keep them behind him, just judging by how easily he's been able to size through the pack at the moment. No disrespect to him, of course. This wouldn't have been as easy a task if he had started on the hard tyres along with everyone else. And that's why he didn't start on the hard tyres along with everyone else. If you're starting in 12 and you do the same as everyone, things are going to be pretty tough for you. But he's gone for something different and it is working out very nicely for him at the moment. Just a bit further behind Butcher and Ronhar on this lap. So I don't think we'll be seeing any moves there. Saviano has managed to get back onto this train and the split is now in the top 11 cars, and further back, Carter Lundy dropped outside of DRS range, so he's going to be vulnerable here to Duncan Hoffland, and a long way before we're even into the braking zone there. Duncan Hoffland is into the top 12. Reminder of the point system that we use here at WOR. It is almost identical to the one that used in Formula 1. The only difference is there is no fastest lap point, as we have our third retirement of the race, and that is Luke Smith out after his jump start. It was always going to be very tough for him to get any points.
Yeah, I mean, his race was completely dead from the start, I would say. So very unfortunate to see that we have lost Luke Smith from this race. Jake Benham at the moment, though, at the front of the order, is getting once again close to the back. Ikebana pulling himself another 3-second time penalty. That's 6 seconds added to his name at the moment. It's been a difficult day for Alpine in general. Jake Benham, though, close to the back of Alfie Butcher. I wonder if he's going to try for a move down in towards the first corner. These medium tyres can still be pretty quick at the moment. However, those hard tyres are certainly going to be coming into their element. We'll have to wait and see what happens from here as Thomas Ronhar leading Alfie Butcher, leading Jake Benham, and maybe the pressure from Benham in behind could force Alfie into a move. But here they are off the exit of the final corner. DRS going to be wide open for the Mercedes and Ferrari, pulling off to the right hand side. Jake Benham is going to move into P2, but Alfie Butcher is making it very difficult for him. He's not got the run on the inside. He'll have to go later on the brakes, and down the inside goes Jake Benham. He makes that position. He's up into P2, and there's just one car in front of him that is standing in his way from the lead of this race, and it is Thomas Ronhar. I mean, what a move from Jake Benham, arguably the most aggressive of this race from him here. It looked well said and done. Then Alfie Butcher started pulling away again. Jake Benham was having none of it, and he went up the inside, made the move perfectly cleanly, and I'd say he'd be pretty pleased about that one there.
Yeah, and amazingly, the next move might be the easiest one he's made for a while, because he's been passing all these cars when both of them have had the DRS. Ronhar has got a full battery, but he's not going to have that drag reduction system, whereas Jake Benham is. So we could see on to lap number 10, we could see Jake Benham, having started 12, getting into the lead of this race. It's like Max Verstappen did in Belgium. It looks like he's driving in a different formula at the moment. Again, he may pay for this later on in the race, but at the moment, it is working out absolutely beautifully for him. Seems to be a bit further behind, so I don't think this is going to be the lap, especially if Ronhar decides to use a bit of his battery. Further back, there was a move. Will Lewis managed to overtake Jack West on the previous lap, so Alfa Romeo now up into 8th, and the Alfa Tauri down in 9th place. And you can see Jake just closing in, not close enough in towards turn number 1, he'll probably lose out in the dirty air as well. So I don't think he'll be going for the move on this lap. And every lap he waits reduces his chances.
I think he might be trying to settle into a rhythm a little bit. Maybe try and save these medium tyres so they can go a few extra laps. I mean, he's been pushing very, very hard, so those tyres not going to be in the greatest condition. He's also got to think about his battery at the moment. He's only got 35%, whereas Thomas Ronhaar pretty much full completely. So Jake Benham, he's used all of his resources very early on in this race. Whether that is going to be enough of a buffer later on in the Grand Prix where he can stay ahead of the runners that he has already overtaken, that remains to be seen. On lap number 10 of 36, we still have a long way to go left in this Grand Prix. Although the laps have been flying by, it's still got a lot of time left for Jake Benham to sort of lose all of this time. We'll see what he can do as he heads down in towards the first corner. It was a bad exit from him there, and I just don't see a move coming here.
Yeah, the rears might be starting to crying off. There's quite a few slow corners, 4, 5 and 6 particularly, and the entire of the Furrow Soul Stadium section, so those rear tyres might just be starting to struggle on the traction. And now further back, there's some good battling. George Nader all over the back of Tom Manley here for 4th and 5th place. Nader started behind his teammate, but he's gained a few positions at the moment, not having a bad race whatsoever. And this could, just trying to look through my standings at the moment, this may well be one of the first races this season we've actually seen George, and definitely will be his best performance. So he's doing a great job at the moment. It's still too early to come in from the hards onto a set of the medium tyres. I think it'll be at least another 2 or 3 laps before we see anyone even considering going for that move. If you're further down the order, though, if you are, you know, a Will Lewis, a Jack West, possibly, you know, Baena, De Capua, Hoffland, Lundy, Perrinier as well, it's got to be worth a thought about coming in earlier, doing that aggressive undercut, because knowing that later on in the race, when your tyres are struggling, it's very likely you're going to be in a DRS train, and that will help you be able to defend.
Absolutely, of course it is just so difficult to overtake when everyone's in a DRS train. I mean, Jake Benham has proved that wrong today, but he's not really able to get close now, even without the DRS from Thomas Ronhaar. I think he really is just trying to charge up the battery, but he has not been able to do so at all. He is getting very close to the back of Ronhaar, and he's going to pull off to the right hand side in towards the first corner without using any of his battery. Jake Benham goes for the lead of the race. He takes P1. He is now up how many positions? 11 positions in this race. Absolutely flying. Able to come back at him. No, he is not, of course, without that DRS assistance. Given that is the double DRS straight, Jake Benham is going to be able to hold on here.
Yeah, going to be able to hold on, and he'll be very happy with how that has gone. Like you said, Dan, it is one detection point, similar to what we see at Canada, Australia. I know at Austria, there's 3 DRS zones, one after the other, and every single one has their own detection point. So that is where you do see the drivers able to fight back. But yeah, Benham just able to easily make that move there. Whether he's trimmed off a bit of front wing that he was only able to trim off because the Parc Ferme glitch has, I believe, been fixed in the latest patch. So Parc Ferme conditions should definitely have applied. Whether he's gone for a bit more aggressive on the wing, we'll have to wait and see. But he's penalty for speeding in the pit lane and almost crashed on the way into the pit lane. He's the favourite in the poll all of a sudden to win this race, but I think his chances have just severely reduced.
Oh my word! I mean, I had one of my my lag spike moments there, and he was almost spinning on my screen there. So that terrified me. But Jake Benham, wow, he escaped with that one there, but he's not got any damage. However, that 5-second time penalty is going to be a huge blemish on all of the hard work that he has put in so far today, and that really might eliminate him from contention, I would say. I mean, that is such a big heartbreak, and especially with how close this grid is. I mean, the entire field at the moment from first down to 14th or 13th is a DRS train, so it's not looking good for Benham anymore. He's just got to get his head down from this point onwards, try and make this undercut work. He will have 1 or 2 laps where he needs to get the hard tyres up to temperature. It's so difficult to do so on this game, so he really does have to get them up to temperature, close that gap to McLavchich and Timon Shooter, get the undercut and try and pull that advantage out.
Yeah, I think he did just miss the wall in the end, and if he did hit it, it would have been quite slow speed, but it wasn't an ideal pit entry. He, despite speeding in the pit lane, ended up slowing down a lot more than you needed to at a separate point, so that cost him some time as well. And he's got that 5-second penalty, so definitely not ideal there for Jake Benham, down in 17th place. Cost himself a lot of time on the way into the pit lane. He's been showing good pace. He has been showing good pace, but I think starting from 12th, managing to get to the front of the field, if he somehow wins this race, it's going to be one of the best performances we have ever seen in any form of racing, never mind just esports. It would be absolutely incredible. Looks like the tyres are now starting to warm up. We've got the gap to the leader up there, and he's not losing time to anyone now, so it wouldn't surprise me if he's still in the lead after all of this. But he's going to be on hard tyres, everyone else is going to be on mediums, and they are much nicer to warm up, of course. So could be a very long defensive afternoon for Jake remaining in the rest of this race.
Absolutely, it will be very difficult for him, and I'd imagine that Thomas Ronhar, Alfie Butcher, they're going to try and make the moves as early as they can, because Jake Benham really will be just backing them up into the rest of the pack. If he does not have that pace in comparison to the medium tyres, of course, once they catch him, it's almost game over for him, especially with that 5-second time penalty. There is a small chance it can get removed. Sometimes they could be right on the limit, but it'll be in the red, so they get an unjustified 5-second time penalty. However, glitches like that are quite rare, so I wouldn't be too hopeful if you're a Jake Benham fan that this is going to work out in his favour. We will have to wait and see. Of course, this is all pending stewards' results. Alfie Butcher getting close to the back. Thomas Ronhart in towards turn number 4, not able to go for the move, but it's good to see that he's just letting them know he's there, you know, not letting Thomas Ronhart get too comfortable in this race. Alfie Butcher, always a factor, I would say, in races like these, especially when he has almost all of his battery to utilise down the DRS straight and try and overtake Thomas Ronhart. So with Jake Benham potentially out of the fight today, we still can have a fantastic battle between Ronhart and Butcher.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Alfie's becoming a bit of a top-tier league racing veteran now on PC. I remember commentating him on another league towards the end of the F1 2021 game cycle. I'll have to admit, I'm not the most familiar with people who raced on the Xbox. He was blistering. His transition to PC has been absolutely incredible. He's had a podium so far this season, points in every race he's taken part in. He's looking pretty good for a podium at the moment, but a lot can change in the final 21 laps of this race. Doesn't look like he's going to be close enough for a move. Everyone's in that sort of 4 to 6 tenths of a second gap at the moment, and that is now everyone, because Viso, Shooter and Miklavcic have also managed to get themselves onto the back of this DRS train, and that's also going to be bad news for Benham and Baena and Akafa with their penalties, because they could lose multiple places with those penalties in this race. But as you've said, there is a possibility to get them removed. For example, Drake Dempsey got a 5-second speeding penalty last week at Saudi Arabia, a track where it is known to have a few issues on the way into the pit lane, and he was able to get that one removed. We'll see whether Jake is able to do so as well. But lap number 16, things now that Jake's not there, things pretty chilled at the front. Everyone's settling back into that normal rhythm. I think that's shown by the fact that we're on board with Thomas Ronhar, 97% battery as he comes out the S's. We'll know when he's coming to the pits, because he will just dump that battery out of the track and take every last bit of life out of those Pirelli tyres.
I mean, pretty much the top 6 all have over 75% ERS in the battery, so no one is really pushing at the moment. I'd imagine we're going to see the pit stops coming out very soon, and as I say that, George Nader is the first of the hard runners to come into the box. I was expecting maybe a lap or two from now, but we are seeing the Lebanese driver into the pit lane, fitting a set of the medium compound of tyre, and that is going to be him out of the box. Where is he going to emerge in comparison to Jake Benham? We'll have to wait and see. I'd imagine that Jake is going to be ahead, but it is going to be very tight. Well, there he is, Jake Benham getting out ahead, and of course with that tyre warm-up for George Nader, it's going to be very difficult for him to keep up at this point in time. However, though, Benham was ahead by quite some margin of Nader, so it's not looking the best for Jake at this point.
Yeah, and let's not forget, George, because he was behind within a second of a detection point, he's had DRS down the pit straight, he's had DRS down what is normally a straight on the run down towards turn number 4, but has quickly become an improvised sequence of S-corners, because George Nader trying everything to build some extra heat into those medium tyres. By the time he gets to the stadium section, they should be absolutely fine. He should have no problems with tyre temperature. 1.6 seconds behind Jake Benham. I expect him to close that gap quite rapidly, and I think he should be able to make the move fairly comfortably as well. But that gives you an idea of how powerful the undercut has been for Jake Benham. He was 22 seconds behind Ron Ha at one point. He's now 19.8 seconds behind Ron Ha and still has that fastest lap of the race as Jack West and Duncan Hoffland both come into the pits off their hard set of tyres. And it's as you were with the front four staying as they are. Ron Ha, Butcher, Manley and Soriano all carrying on for another lap. We'll see how much longer they go. I mean, Alfie Butcher, when I've seen him in other leagues, he tends to enjoy going for the overcut. He doesn't mind losing that time initially and then having the fresher tyres later on. But if it drops him outside of DRS range, which is unlikely with how close the pack is, that could be a costly move.
Yeah, of course, oh dear. Oh dearie me. Thomas Ron Ha, 3 second time penalty added to his race time for multiple warnings. So that is 3 track extensions from him, and we know that they are common, but that is a big hurt to him. Maybe it could be relieving to Jake Benham, actually, given that now he only has to put out a 2 second gap if he wants to finish ahead of Ron Ha. Alfie Butcher has been thrusted now into what could be a race-winning position for him. We're going to see, is anyone deciding to come back into the pit, or come into the pit lane for the first time? Mirko Soriano with a very late dive into the pit lane. I wonder if he did cut that ever so slightly, but the Mercedes driver, Annie Cabana, coming into the box, as is Cartalundi and Simon Perrinier. So we are beginning to see the start of the proper pit stop phase for the hard runners. Jake Benham now with the temperature into those hards. He has George Nader right behind him, who has also just taken the fastest lap from him here. Could be a slight concern for Benham at this point, because he's only 0.5 of a second back. And in this double DRS straight, I would not be surprised to be right on the tail in towards turn number 4.
Yeah, I mean, you can see how powerful the undercut is. Nader's miles ahead of Soriano at the moment. He's got that gap up to nearly 3 seconds on the run down towards turn number 4 then. There's not a lot Jake Benham can do. He's just sitting in the middle of the track saying pick a side, Nader down the inside, Nader up in towards 9th place, and we'll see how much he can pull away on those medium tyres as well. How much pace has Nader got? I wouldn't write him out of this race just yet. Yes, his mediums are going to be decidedly second hand by the time we get towards the end of this race, but he's showing some good pace at the moment. I think if Butcher, Manley and Ron Ha pitted this lap, it would not surprise me if the Lebanese driver took the lead of this race. And talking about pitting this lap, in comes our race leader, in comes Thomas Ron Ha.
In comes Tom Manley as well, so these guys going to be fitting the set of the mediums. And where is George Nader going to emerge in all of this? The leading medium runner at this point in time, as he's coming out of the final corner. Tom Manley and Thomas Ron Ha are going to be exiting the pit lane. George Nader will have that overspeed. He's not going to have any DRS down here, but there it is. He is going to come out ahead of Thomas Ron Ha. He leads this race. Jake Benham, well, he's the net race leader of this race. Benham has also managed to emerge ahead of Ron Ha. However, if we saw anything like George's Nader early on Jake Benham, it's going to be a very easy move for Thomas Ron Ha to get back through. So maybe that early aggressive strategy that we saw from Jake Benham might not work too well today, as Simon Perrinier, he might have fitted the wrong tyres there, and his day is done.
Yeah, Perrinier out of the race and retiring in the pits. Crucially for Ron Ha, he has come out within DRS range of Nader and Benham. The issue is his tyres aren't up to temperature at the moment, so whether he'll still be within DRS range at the end of this S's section, it's going to be pretty close. Just went a bit deep into the first part of it there, but there's the detection point. So Ron Ha's done a good job there. He's not lost too much in all of that pit stop phase. We'll see what the rest of the leaders can do, because in comes Butcher and Pedreño. Will Lewis, he does this a lot. We said he did this in Spain. Will Lewis loves going long in races. He loves trying different things. As Cartalundi, he had a spin on the previous lap and now gets a 5-second penalty for corner cutting. Will Lewis is just trying something different, you know. If it works out, you're a genius. If it doesn't, well, he was only going to get the lower points anyway, so he's not really losing too much from all of this, as we see where Alfie Butcher comes out relative to this battle. He's going to be behind Ron Ha, and in the end, though, he's comfortably ahead of Soriano, Manley, West and Pedreño, who are having their own little battle here.
Yeah, he's quite a bit off the back of Thomas Ronhard, though, and Ronhard is actually closing onto the rear of Jake Benham, using his battery finally in this Grand Prix. Can he get the inside in towards turn number 4? You bet he can. There it is for Thomas Ronhard. Jake Benham trying to hold him on the outside. Going to make the switchback move, potentially. Slight bit of contact between the pair of them in towards Horkila, the double right-hander. Thomas Ronhard is going to have that inside line. He's going to be able to clear Jake Benham. He's back ahead now into a net P2. He'll be chasing the McLaren of Georges Nader for the rest of this race. A slight slide through the S's section. A little bit of a worry for Thomas Ronhard. It's also a worry that he still has that 3-second time penalty. I hope he can get that removed, because he has had some excellent pace this evening. He's, of course, pole position, and he's been leading the majority of this Grand Prix. I would not be surprised to be right on the rear of Georges Nader very soon, as now we are seeing Will Lewis and Simon Shooter into the pit lane.
Yeah, and there's been some incident further
and
back.
McClavchich out on circuit.
Yeah, there's been some incidents further back, because we've had Manley and Pedreño have dropped to the back of the field here, so I'm not quite sure what's gone on there. I know what's going on here. Thomas Ronhard to the inside of George Nader and into, if it wasn't for his penalty, into the net lead of this race. There goes Thomas Ronhard. But yes, Manley and Pedreño were close to Suriano and West. There's been some sort of contact, and all of a sudden, Pedreño and Manley a long way down the field. Not ideal for those, obviously, who still have championship ambitions. It's only De Capua and Miklavčić have yet to come into the pits. Ronhard now leading this race, but he does have that 3-second time penalty as Manley leaves the session. He is effectively our 6th retirement here. It's been quite a race of attrition so far.
Real shame for Tom Manley. I mean, he's been so strong all season. That win is never really going to come for him. And I don't know if that was lag on my side of things, but Thomas Ronhard almost binned it in the S's there. He was able to save it, but I don't know. I mean, I might clip that and show you later, but that was a heart-in-mouth moment for not just myself, but for Thomas Ronhard as well, as Alessio De Capua was into the pit lane. Miklavčić still staying out here. I mean, 22 laps, 23 laps on a set of the hards. It is doable, but I don't know why he hasn't pitted at this point, as fastest lap did come out for Thomas Ronhard. That kind of leads me to believe that he wasn't as quick as he could be. Alfie Butcher's going back up, paying him the favour that he did at the beginning of this race, when Jake Benham, of course, was on that set of the medium compound of tyres, absolutely dominating the grid, and now he's slowly beginning to sink back down the order. It's a real shame for Jake Benham, but that was the strategy that he decided himself, and it's not worked out.
The tyres giveth and the tyres taketh away. We said he was the only one on the mediums, apart from Stakelak, who retired on lap 1. That is why it helped him get through the order. All of a sudden, he's now getting the pain from that short-term gain, dropping down the field, plus with that 5-second time penalty. Even if he gets that removed, he's not going to win the race at the moment. But I wouldn't count out the man who's just overtaken him from the win. Alfie Butcher's got a lot of pace in that car. He's within 3 seconds of Ronhard at the moment. He's got much fresher tyres than George Nader, who is effectively leading this race because he doesn't have any penalties. Butcher could have a fantastic job of getting what would be his first win in the top tier on the PC, joining a very elite club alongside Ronhard, alongside Jake Benham, and I think a few others like Shinaka Clay as well, who have won on the top tier on Xbox and on the top tier on the PC as well. Still, obviously, though, a long way to go. We've got 13 laps. There could be more penalties. There could be more collisions. Who knows what could happen here? As it appears, Tom Manley's disconnection, I apologise, Tom, appears like it wasn't a rage quit. Appears like he just got kicked out of the session. So such a shame for him. Hopefully, he might be able to get back in, though. Oh,
it's a real shame. I'm actually being asked to invite him back in. I don't know if I've got him as on my friends list at the moment. I don't have Tom Manley, unfortunately, on my friends list. If he can send me a friend request, then he'll be able to get back in here. But his day really has been ruined, and I do really feel for him. I would love to see him get a win at some point. Of course, there is still 4 races after this evening, so there is still a chance for him, and I really do hope it can go his way.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's shown some fantastic pace tonight. Didn't look as though it was one of his best tracks, but still had the possibility of getting a podium. And even after the mistake he made, we just have, not the mistake, the incident he had with Pedreño and possibly others as well. Pedreño's up into the top 10. Things would have not been over for Manley, and with no penalties, he could have still got some decent points. Who knows? If he gets back in now and there's a late safety car, all might not be lost for him. So hopefully he is able to get back in the session. And like you said, the pace he's shown this season, I know it's supposed to be unbiased, he almost deserves a win. Last week, losing by less than a tenth of a second. So cruel against Jarno Opmeer as well. Lewis, he's got fresh tyres as well. I think one of the freshest in the field apart from De Capua and, well, will be Miklavčić when he eventually comes into the pits. Will Lewis works his way up in towards 8th place. We said Tom Manley could go with a safety car. Primož Miklavčić, he's begging for a safety car right now.
He's still out on circuit. I actually didn't even realise that he was still out on track on that set of the hard compound of tyre. I mean, fair play to him for going this long. He's doing his best Will Lewis impression in Spain, who went about, 30 laps on a set of the hards. I mean, in retrospect, that is around about the same sort of distance as in Spain here. So fair play to him for going this long on the same set of the hard compound of tyre. However, Thomas Ronhart and Georges Nader are catching at a rate of knots, and those medium tyres are still well in working condition. So you got to think Miklavčić has got to come in at some point. Not this time by. He's going to bask in all the glory of leading a top-tier WOR race. So fair play to him, but Thomas Ronhart almost within DRS range, and I actually think this is exactly what he wants at this point in time. However, further back behind, I see Mirko Soriano is getting close to his teammate Jake Benham, not doing much to fight that one there. And he moves back over to the racing line. Jake Benham now down into 6th position, and with that 5-second time penalty, it's not looking good for a potential points-paying position for Jake Benham. So his day has gone from looking very, very promising to very, very poor at this point.
Yeah, it could well be a 12th to 1st to 12th, which would be an adventurous race. You can't argue about that one. Such a shame for Benham. You know, who knows, if it wasn't for that issue in the pit lane, if it wasn't for the penalty, things could have still been very different for him, and I think he'd have been a lot further up the order, but perhaps understandably feeling a bit disheartened at the moment. And, I mean, in the Constructors' Championship, Mercedes and McLaren, with Pedreño in 10th place, aren't really having the greatest of days at the moment, as Alessio De Capua gets himself a time penalty, and Thomas Ronhart all over the back of Miklavčić here. And this is not the part of the track you want to be stuck behind a car on 19 lap older tyres. Ronhart had nearly built a 1-second gap to Georges Nader, who has closed it all the way back up again. Ronhart takes the lead of this race. Nader will follow through on Miklavčić soon as well. I am almost certain. But both of those have built their battery up, and in fact, Georges Nader might have a chance of going for the race lead here.
Oh, he's trying to look for it down the inside, but there was no opportunity. Given they both had DRS, Thomas Ronhart was able to have that overspeed, and he's able to stay ahead. However, is he going to be able to get a good exit here? Georges Nader, not with a good run. Those medium tyres not going to be in the best condition at the moment. And Thomas Ronhart, I think he's going to be able to cruise away for the time being. However, Georges Nader just knows that he needs to stay within that 3-second window of Thomas Ronhart, and then he has a shot at winning this race. Of course, penalties can be removed, and that is why Nader is not giving up. He's not taking it easy. He's trying his hardest to go for the lead of this race. Maybe that was his best opportunity that he has let by, and he was maybe shot himself in the foot, actually, by using up all of his battery too early. Alfie Butcher's also being caught up behind him, probably the worst place on the circuit to be behind some lap traffic. Oh, it's not even lap traffic, it's just slower cars. This is actually for position. Holding him up so much is Miklavčić. Why doesn't he pit at this point? He is staying out, asking for the safety car. It is not coming at this point. Here comes Alfie Butcher off the exit of the final corner, and I believe with the DRS he's going to be able to get that move easily done in towards the first corner. Miklavčić now down into 4th.
Yeah, he's I think he's really past the point of no return for Miklavčić. Even if there is a safety car now, you know, the chances of it are unlikely. The field is fairly spread out compared to what it was earlier on, as Timon Shooter makes his way up in towards 12th place. Gains a bit more time. Timon's got a slim chance of getting points with Benham having that penalty and Ika Baena having a few seconds as well. It's just not worked out, this strategy for Jake Benham. It's not working out at the moment for Primož Miklavčić. It could still work out for Georges Nader as long as Ronhart doesn't get that penalty removed, and I think crucially for George, he needs to stay within a second of Ronhart. If he drops outside of that on 4-lap older tyres, he could be a bit of a sitting duck for Alfie Butcher at the end of this race. And you can really see now on traction pretty much through every single corner, Nader losing time to our race leader. It's going to be a very long and difficult final 8 laps, I think, for the McLaren driver.
Yeah, and we saw Jake Benham around about pitting at the 12-lap mark. Of course, later on in the race, when they're lighter on fuel, they're not putting as much wear through the tyres, so they can go longer. However, Georges Nader is really going to be feeling them by the end of this race. Finally, Michalčič decides to call it and come into the pit lane. He's going to get out of the way of everyone else. Here's Will Lewis on the back of Jake Benham, headed in towards the first corner. Meanwhile, further up ahead, Jack West is getting close to the rear of Mirko Soriano. He's not able to make that move stick. There's Will Lewis up the inside. Jake Benham now down into 8th position. He's got Ikabaña in behind him, who actually has 6 seconds worth of time penalties, if I'm not mistaken. Make that 9 seconds. So he's got a pretty good chance of finishing ahead of the Spaniard in the Alpine. It's been a rough day for Alpine. I mean, they've had the retirement in Luke Smith, and they're likely going to get no points out of this one this evening. However, Ikabaña, I do commend him. He hasn't given up, so fair play to him today.
Yeah, fair play to him. You never know if he's able to get any of those removed. He did seem to get one of them very early on in this race, as now Ruben Pedreño gets a 3-second time penalty. We're up to, with Manley not being here, of course, he's still disconnected, I believe, at the moment. We're up to 7 out of the 14 drivers. Half the grid has a penalty of some sort, and apart from Benham, they're all track limits penalties. It has been a race which we expected to see a lot of penalties, but even for a top tier, this is quite a high number at the moment of time penalties that we are seeing. Back towards the lead of the race, Ron Haar, 7 tenths of a second ahead of Georges Nader at the moment. If the race finished with the gaps at the moment, Ron Haar would still manage to get a podium from all of this. Like I said, Nader's tyres are going to be feeling pretty second best. And in fact, has Georges Nader got a puncture? Nader's gone straight on at turn number 1. I don't know whether he's had some sort of issue.
He's got an issue.
I mean, we've seen this before with George's wheel, that he's had the odd braking issue.
I think his wheel. Oh, dearie me. I believe that Georges Nader's had some problem with his wheel here, and he's not been able to get it stopped. I mean, I thought that was lag on my point, because the cars just decide to go off wherever they want to when my game slightly disconnects. But he stayed there and he fell right down the order. That's a real shame for Georges Nader. I mean, he was having such a good race, and through no fault of his own, he's been completely stripped of it all. So you really do have to feel for him. Good on him for not giving up at this point. He's still going. He's not retired. He's not put it into a wall. I would not blame him, though, if he comes into the pits at the end of this lap to retire.
Yeah, I think the air in Georges Nader's bedroom is going to be turned pretty blue with some French swear words at the moment. He is going to be absolutely furious at what has just happened. It's one of those things, you know. I mean, he heads in towards the pit lane now.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he even bothered trying to slow it down for the pit lane speed limit. I think we are going to see him. I was going to say either retire or go for the fastest lap. He's gone for retirement. Someone who's not bothered about retirement, though. Will Lewis and Jack West getting very close together in for what, for now, they're not far off a battle for a podium all of a sudden. Will Lewis just 9 tenths of a second off the back of Mirko Soriano, and Jack West up here for that fight for a podium. Georges Nader's terrible misfortune. Obviously a gain for all of these drivers, and a gain for Ron Haar as well, because if he somehow, in the final 5 laps, can pull out 1.1 seconds from Alfie Butcher, even with the penalty, Thomas Ron Haar would take the victory.
So even with just over 4 laps to go, 5 laps to go in this race, there's so many twists and turns in this story. Will Lewis and Jack West having their scrap has given Mirko Soriano a little bit of breathing room here. Of course, they were right up all together at the braking zone of the first corner, but now Mirko's been able to stretch his legs ever so slightly. However, Will Lewis crucially has been able to keep it within that DRS range, and he is still going to be able to utilise the drag reduction system down in towards the first and fourth corner. So I definitely think we're going to see a scrap for the podium at the end of this race. And I'm very excited to see it. Thomas Ron Haar at the front of the order. He has steadily been improving ahead of Alfie Butcher. These two have got very similar tyres, so I don't believe there's going to be too much of a difference in them. It's just going to be raw pace at this point. And Thomas Ron Haar, he has got that slight edge. So possibly by the end of this Grand Prix, he might be able to get that 3-second advantage that he needs to take the win here.
2 tenths a lap. That's all he's got to do at the moment. It sounds easy when you say it like that, but we've seen multiple times here where the top 14, 15 in qualifying are separated by 2 tenths of a second. He's pushing like crazy. He's burning up all of his ERS, not just effectively all of it. You can see there, he is on 0% for a bit. Alfie Butcher, he's not faring too much better. Equal cars, fairly equal tyre life at the moment. I imagine fairly similar setups. This is just who can be the best. It's effectively a valley over the remaining 4 laps in this race. In the final sector, Ronhard just seems to have the edge slightly. Butcher on that lap only losing a 1/10 of a second. If you can keep it to that towards the end, he will be looking good to take this race victory here. Will Lewis looking very good to take a podium here alongside Mirko Subiano. He comes with his fresher tyres, and that is Will Lewis up towards 3rd place, and with that double dose of DRS, should be able to defend the move into turn number 4 as well. Lewis onto the podium.
Will Lewis in recent weeks has been so impressive to me. He's been in incredible form at the moment, and if he gets this podium, he well and truly deserves it. A great move on Mirko Suriano. He's been able to hold him off now, and if he gets outside of that 1 second window, I believe he's going to have no real issue of holding on to this podium. However, there is still the threat of the drivers behind, and maybe Jake Benham is going to still phase into this race because all these medium tyres are going to be completely shot and they're all going to be finished. Jake Benham could reap the rewards. Given that he does have a 5-second time penalty though, he's not really going to be able to keep any of the positions, but if he gets that one removed, he could be in a nice position as another time penalty comes out for Ika Bayanya. It's not been a good race whatsoever for him. He's still running in P7. His fellow countryman Ruben Pedreño is right behind him. It's been a decent recovery actually for Ruben to get himself at least up into that top 8, as we'll have to wait and see what happens through here as they head on towards lap number 34 of 36. With 3 laps remaining in this race, there is still plenty of potential for very exciting battles here.
Yeah, I mean, Jake, he is going to lose a few places at the moment, but every driver behind him, down to Primoz Miklavčić, has a penalty, and Baena has more penalties than him, so Jake, I think, if the race finished as they are at the moment, he'd be pretty close to finishing around about where Max Wiesel is. He's almost 2 seconds ahead, and Max has 2 seconds less penalties, so all is not lost for Jake. May still gain a few consolation points from all of this, and like you said, the medium tyres are going to be absolutely shot at the moment. He only did 12 laps on them earlier on a heavy fuel load. Max Wiesel is down on his 17th lap, and of course, we never got to see what George Nader could do on his strategy, and we were talking about Thomas Ronhard possibly pulling out that 3-second gap. That is a moot point all of a sudden. He has 6 seconds of time penalties. We can almost safely say Alfie Butcher's going to take the victory in this race. Touch wood. What could now be interesting, the gap between Ronhard and Will Lewis is about 6 seconds. He should still get a podium, but will he be second or will he be third? 2 laps to go.
2 laps to go in this race, but there's still so much tension in the air. Thomas Ronhard might have thrown away this win with that time penalty being added. So Alfie Butcher looking to be in a race winning position for the first time in the top tier of PC Tier 1, and Ruben Pedreño being able to get past Ika Bayanya. I know these two are quite good friends, so he was able to make that move really with no real problem. I believe that Ruben is also actually going to be jumping Jake Benham by the end of this one because he is within 2 seconds. So realistically, I think Benham's only going to be losing 1 position, so he'll be finishing P7 if he doesn't get any more time penalties. Maybe Max Wiesel or Timon Shooter can actually get ahead of him, but all things considered, it's not looking too bad for Benham at this point.
Yeah, and I don't think the 2 Red Bulls are going to be jumping him at the moment because they're too busy tearing 7 bells out of each other. Wiesel and Shooter have had multiple bangs of wheels. Surprised we haven't seen bits of carbon fibre flying at the moment, and De Capua, I think, getting too close to the back of them. He has to take evasive action. It's a bit like, was it 2016 where Sebastian Vettel went on that rant at Charlie Whiting as he couldn't get past Ricciardo?
Yeah.
And Verstappen, we've got that here, but I think this time it's going to be the 2 Red Bulls having their own little rants on each other because Wiesel and Shooter have fought really hard and have possibly secured Jake Benham that 7th position, and him only losing 1 place, which I think after what happened in the pit lane, he would have jumped at that possibility. And Jake's closing up to the back of Jack West here, not going to be close enough to go for a move. I don't think at this point of the race he would risk it anyway. Subiano's risked it though. Down the inside he goes in towards turn number 1. Remember, this is a battle for the podium. Lewis and Subiano, who's got the traction off the corner. Will Lewis has just managed to do that. He's got the inside line for turn number 4 as well, but we could see Subiano try and sweep it all around the outside. There's more wheel banging very deep on the brakes, and here comes Jack West all of a sudden.
Wow, I mean, Will Lewis having to go off the circuit at one point. Now they're all swapping positions. Here comes Jack West. They're 3 wide, headed in towards the S's. Jack West is the beneficiary. He comes out ahead. He's done it. He's got by on Mirko Soriano, who's also lost out to Jake Benham. Of course, he's going to get that position back, but that is going to be huge frustration for the Italian driver. Meanwhile, at the front of the order, Thomas Ronhaar through the final corner. He is going to, on circuit, take victory, but with 6 seconds of time penalties to his name. It is going to be Alfie Butcher taking victory. Soriano's got a time penalty, and Will Lewis is going to come across the line. With all that battling, it's going to allow for Thomas Ronhaar to maintain P2. Mirko Soriano finishes in 4th. 5th for Pedreño after a great recovery today. Time and shooter in 6th. Something happened with Jack West there. He was in 7th. Jake Benham finished down in 9th.
I mean, I've got a request for Codemasters. Do you know what F1 on the TV graphics has that picture-in-picture thing at the moment? I think we need that because we needed eyes in about 3 different places there. I'm not quite sure what happened towards the end of that lap. We saw someone spinning across the finish line, but yeah, obviously apologies for missing that, but we do try where possible to catch the leader and the race winner coming across the finish line today. It was Thomas Ronhaar who saw the line first, but Alfie Butcher takes his first victory on the PC in WOR.
Absolutely, Alfie Butcher is going to be very, very pleased about that one there, and I mean, it feels good to see Alfie Butcher on the top step, but I do have to feel for Georges Nader here. I think he would have been, he definitely would have won this race if it weren't for his wheel issues, and I'm looking in a group chat at the moment. He's unfortunately, he's confirmed his wheel had disconnected. It's a real shame for him, but there's nothing Alfie Butcher can do. He's going to bask in all this glory of winning in PC Tier 1, and I think there's no other young driver that deserves it more than Alfie Butcher. He's a rising star in the world of F1 esports, and I think this is a driver we need to watch out for in the future. He takes victory in this race. Thomas Ronhaar managed to hold on to P2, and then Will Lewis took 3rd, and I hope we can get those guys in very soon for an interview.
Yeah, it seems like something's gone on between Jack and Jake in the final corner, which has cost them loads of time. I mean, Diamond Shooter somehow managed to finish in the top 6 after all of that. It's, like we said, it's been a crazy end to the race as we go through, you know, the drivers, the DNFs and all of that. But like you said, hopefully we will be able to get those top 3 in there for an interview. It'll be interesting to hear from Ronhaar because I think in the end he did manage to get 3 seconds ahead of I think in the end of Alfie Butcher. So possibly if he can get a warning removed, might still have a chance of getting a race victory. But I think if you get 6 seconds of penalties and finish in 2nd place, that's not a bad race whatsoever.
No, absolutely. I think Thomas Ronhaar he's got to be pleased about that one. Of course, having the time penalty to his name is not the greatest thing in the world, but it's something that's around a circuit like Mexico is very easy to do. So I think still finishing 2nd out of all of that, there's got to be some achievement. Of course, without all that battling right at the end between Will Lewis, Soriano, and Jack West, he probably would have lost that position to the Alfa Romeo driver, and he would have been in P3 by the end of it. But I guess fortune did favour him by the end of it. He managed to take P2, and hopefully we can get him in for an interview. I can see one driver already in the box. It is Will Lewis. We're going to get to talk to him. Will, can you hear us, my friend?
I can, my friend. How are you?
I am fantastic at the moment. How are you feeling after a brilliant race from your point of view?
Yeah, I'm good. Very stressful in the first stint, but it always is around Mexico, trying to keep it clean. Always a great time with penalties, as we saw with even the greats such as Ronhaar. It can happen, but yeah, it was a stressful race, a bit hot and sweaty, but yeah, we're all good.
Absolutely, absolutely wonderful. Let's talk about your qualifying though. Of course, you weren't able to get a lap done in Q3. I mean, what happened there? We saw you starting P10 with no time on the board.
Yeah, pretty much in qualifying was feeling a bit... I didn't have the best confidence going into qualifying, and somehow just made it to Q3 with a few mistakes from people around me in Q2. And on my final run, saw my split was a little bit down on what he should be, so tried to make up for it in the third sector and just made a mistake and ended up in the wall. So yeah, not really ideal.
That's unfortunate to hear, but qualifying doesn't give you any points, and you managed to come away with a P3 finish. And of course, you had to fight your way through that one. You had a very intense last lap battle with Mirko Soriano, and then Jack West stuck his nose in there at some point as well. Talk us through that battle, please.
Yeah, well, I knew I had the tyre advantage by about 3 laps because I had my engineers in my ear telling me. And on the last lap, he came from like 7 tenths back up the straight, so I had absolutely no WORS. And yeah, he was just flying, came up my inside, managed to have a nice clean battle, in my opinion. I mean, a little push off here and there, but I mean, welcome to PC. It happens. Then going into the first corner of Sector 2, I got up the inside, managed to clear him, and that's when I saw Jack got involved and I sort of just pulled away.
Absolutely fantastic work from you today. I hope we can hear from you in the commentary box for a future podium, and we'll let you get away and enjoy this P3 finish this evening. Thank you for joining us, Will Lewis.
No problem. Have a good one, guys.
All right, thank you. At the moment, Luke, we don't have anyone else in the interview room, so that gives us a little bit of time to talk about this race.
I mean, yeah, but so much happened in that. I mean, we talked about the start, how first few bits of esports races, league racing, not loads really tends to happen. Jake Benham threw all that out of the water. I don't think I've ever seen in a race like this someone come from 12th to 1st. I believe it was the start of lap 10. By the time he got into the lead of the race, absolutely incredible. Comes into the pits early on. You've got to feel for him. If it wasn't for that 5-second penalty, if it wasn't for what I also think was him slowing down a bit in the pit lane, you've got to wonder how much of an advantage would he have had over the rest of the pack. I don't think he'd have took the victory in that race, but a podium was probably on the cards. And then, obviously, he's been involved in whatever chaos happened later on. I imagine we could be seeing quite a few stewards' inquiries from that one. I mean, like Will said, I think there was nothing wrong between what happened with him and Mirko. There was a tiny tap from Jack on Mirko as well, and after that, he just bunched everyone together. Final lap of the race, old tyres, all hell broke loose.
It's kind of inevitable. When you get in that situation and there's so many drivers trying to fight for the same piece of tarmac, something will happen in the end, and I would like everyone to, just keep it respectful. Of course, there's going to be a lot of conversation on Twitter, and we know that sometimes things can get a little bit heated, but please just remember to keep it all civil. And when you're discussing these things, I'm certainly going to be checking Twitter to see all the clips so I can actually gather what happened. And it's a real shame that we couldn't get it in the end, because we always have to cover the lead across the line to win the race. And we missed out on what was a incredible scrap.
Yeah, I mean, like we said, we saw the first half of it. I'm going to be honest, I wasn't expecting too much to happen after that. I thought Will had gone well clear, and you didn't really see too many moves in towards turn number 12. But it is the final lap of the race, and that's probably when you are going to see more moves in towards the final corners. We've seen drivers attempt it before into the stadium section, and it doesn't normally end up with too much success. Will Lewis, obviously a big winner out of all of that, but I think another big winner, Time and Shooter, looked at one bit. He was going to need a bit of a few mistakes from other drivers to get into the points. Ended up scoring 8 points today, so he'll be very happy with how he did, and a big proponent of just keeping it clean when it comes to track limit penalties. I can't remember a top tier race where we've seen that many track limit penalties, including the guy we're next going to be able to bring into the interview room.
Absolutely, I can see that Thomas Ronha is in the interview waiting room, so we'll drag him in now. Thomas Ronha, of course, winning the race on circuit, only finishing P2 in the end. Let's talk about your qualifying. Well, actually, first of all, can you hear me, Thomas?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So let's first of all talk about your qualifying. You were able to smash everyone out of the water and take pole position. Talk us through your lap there.
Not gonna lie, going to practice, I wasn't feeling that confident, but somehow I managed to PB in session by over a tenth. So that was actually really good. I was pretty surprised about that lap. So quali went pretty well, and then starting the race, all able to control the field behind me, with Alfie behind me the whole race pretty much. I think I did an undercut on Alfie, which put him on the back foot a little bit, and then obviously I got a penalty, and Alfie didn't, so I had to get out that 3-second window. But at the end I pushed a little bit too much and got another penalty. But it is what it is. It happens. Really.
Of course, with that penalty coming your way, is there any warnings that you might have got where they could be removed and you maybe could get yourself? I mean, it's quite unlikely getting 4 warnings removed, but do you think there's a possibility it can happen?
Nah, they were all fair warnings, so nothing to be worried about.
That's fair enough. Then I'm glad that you're able to admit that on stream and admit to your mistakes. Of course, you are still a podium setter. You had a fantastic race, and arguably, I think definitely you were just the quickest man out there today. And I hope later on in the season we can hear you back in the commentary box as a winner this time, but we'll let you get away and enjoy that podium. Once again, good luck for the rest of the F1 esports season. I know that you've been gathering so much support as of recent. I'm one of them as well, so yeah, a really good job from you, and I wish you the best.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. So that brings us to the end of, I believe, our interview section. I'm not seeing Alfie Butcher in the waiting room there, so I don't really know what else to say, Luke.
Yeah, I don't know if there is much else to say. I mean, Alfie, he did say earlier on that he wouldn't be able to make it, unfortunately, after that one, which is such a shame. It's been a brilliant performance from him, brings him in towards that top 10 in the championship, and I've just been trying to do some quick maths in my head. I mean, Lucas, Jarno, and Tom Manley, two of them weren't here tonight. The other one didn't score any points. They're still going to be the top 3 in the championship. So, yeah, Lucas and Jarno especially, despite not being here, really haven't lost anything. And you can almost say, we are hearing he will be back in a few weeks' time for the US Grand Prix when we're next racing. You could possibly say, headed into the last 4 races, could well be advantage Jarno in the championship.
Absolutely. I think Jarno Opmeer has been he's been benefited very, very nicely in the sense that his closest rival, Tom Manley, unfortunately had that disconnect and wasn't able to score any decent points, and Jake Benham also didn't have a great Grand Prix this weekend. He was only able to come away with 2 points, so Jarno Opmeer's kind of been saved by that fact. However, there are still other drivers who are looking to challenge him. I know that Pedreño ended up recovering to like 4th position after all the penalties were applied, and this is all, of course, pending stewards inquiries as well, so the results aren't final, but I'm very interested in this championship fight, and I think the last 4 races of this season are going to be immense.
Yeah, certainly. It is going to be, as we just take a quick look at the calendar, we are going to have 2 breaks weeks now. We have got, in real life, the US and the Mexican Grand Prix. So the US Grand Prix is going to be in 3 weeks' time. Then there's another break week for the Brazilian Grand Prix. Japan, Brazil, final break week because of the World Cup. Then it's going to be the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. And, you know, any of those names you've mentioned, Opmeer, Benham, Pedreño, Tom Manley, Thomas Ronhard, definitely can't write him out with the way he was before he... in his last race. Even Paracic, if he returns, he could be someone that we see getting up towards the top of the championship. It is going to be so close, and I cannot wait.
Absolutely, I can't wait either. And this has been one of my favourite seasons of League Racing. It's been a pleasure to commentate, and I'm really looking forward to the last 4 races. But I believe that is all from us this evening. So thank you everyone so much for watching. Make sure you check us out on Twitter at WOR League. Of course, you can hit subscribe as well. It's the big red button beneath the stream. It's impossible to miss. And make sure you check the Discord there's a link below for that, and you can get up.
It appears right at the end of the stream, Dan's internet has completely cut off, which is such a shame. But yeah, thank you so much everyone for joining us tonight. Make sure to check out in the Discord below and our sponsors as well. Oh, Dan, you're back with us.
I was doing a whole outro and everything. Was I disconnected for that long?
Yes, you were.
I did my entire outro in that time.
Oh, well, you're well rehearsed now for doing it the second time.
I can do it again.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you everyone for watching this evening. I hope I don't have another disconnect. I think I might have actually had another disconnection here.
No, you're still okay. You're still okay. We're good.
You were completely frozen on my screen. That really scared me. I'll go quickly then. Thank you everyone for watching this evening. Make sure you check out WOR on Twitter at WOR League. You can subscribe to us as well. It's the big red button beneath the stream. You cannot miss it. And you should check out our Discord link in the description to stay up to date with all WOR news. You can follow myself on Twitter at DanFieldF1_. And you can follow Luke at LukeEtheridge95. Thank you so much everyone for watching this evening. We'll join you in 2 weeks time after our break weeks for this epic championship battle. But for now, from us this evening, it is thank you and good night.